Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway this morning. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. To my friends in Minnesota, listening on AM 1280 The Patriot, you've got a dead heat for Senate. I would never have thunk it. But your no-name senator is tied with Jason Lewis, who has been like me on the radio for a lot of the last 30 years, but he's also been a member of Congress. And he fought an uphill race to a tie in Minnesota. And so to all of my listeners in Duluth and all of my listeners in the western part of the state, and of course in AM 1280 The Land in the Twin Cities, go out and vote early. Remember, keepamericaamerica.com has got all of your early voting outposts. Early voting is underway in Arizona, in Georgia, in Michigan, in Minnesota, in Ohio, and that's just to name a few. And people are voting in record numbers, which I love. I think it's shattered all of the polling numbers. People have no idea whether those polls are correct because they're based on turnouts from 2016 and 2018. I think we're going to have a record turnout this year for the modern era. And you can find out where you can go for early in-person voting at keepamericaamerica.com. The folks at the Job Creators Network that run Keep America America are providing the most up-to-date voting information if new in-person voting places are added. And there are long lines, for example, in Virginia's Fairfax County, which is run by Democrats. Don't blame the Republicans. These crazy Democrats run their voting systems like they run their cities, and they're a mess. There were just not enough places yesterday. But again, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, one of the few if you're in one of the few states that don't allow voting early, I'm sorry, but if you want to find out if you do, go to keepamericaamerica.com. We made that possible for Steelers fans to remember it. keepamericaamerica.com. And they're still looking at each other. We beat the Browns this week. Wake up. Yes, that was last week. Next week is voting. We are in the voting period, and I love this record turnout. I do. I think this is great. It has thrown all the models off. But as I look at the Real Clear Politics Senate election polls, Smith 43, Lewis 42. Jason Lewis is statistically tied. Good for Jason. Joni Ernst is up in 2 brand new Iowa polls. She's down in 1 new Iowa poll, which means you got to vote there. The Rasmussen reports has Martha McSally only 2 behind Kelly, which is margin of error. Mitch McConnell, of course, is crushing it in Kentucky. John Cornyn is crushing it in Texas. And James Inhofe is walking into re-election in Oklahoma. What's very, very interesting, Tom Tillis yesterday, and one of these polls shows a dead heat in North Carolina. Tom Tillis yesterday ran an ad that says, look, we got to know about the second extramarital affair that Cal Cunningham is involved in. Come out, wherever you are. Cal Cunningham, who's gone dark. He's not running any ads, not doing any fundraisers, disinvited to the Biden show whenever the Biden show makes a rare appearance. And Cal Cunningham will not be seen because he doesn't want to answer the question. Look, it is not true that whenever an individual has 1 affair on their spouse that they've had 2. But I'll tell you this, if they've had 2, they've had 4. And that's why Cal Cunningham doesn't want to talk to anyone. Now, I have a blockbuster for you. The New York Post has a news story this morning. Brand new story from the New York Post. And I want to read it to you, the full statement from Tony Bobulinski to the New York Post. And it's a little bit controversial, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. Because even though Twitter and Facebook won't allow you to see this story, I think you ought to hear this story. This is the full statement from Tony Bobulinski to the New York Post. My name is Tony Bobulinski. The facts set forth below are true and accurate. Did Dwayne come to work today, by the way? Just checking. Okay, this is from the New York Post. My name is Tony Bobulinski. Dave, he really came to work today? Dwayne did? I thought I'd talked to him beforehand. Okay, just talking. Right, so this is the full statement from Tony Bobulinski to the New York Post. My name is Tony Bobulinski. The facts set forth below are true and accurate. They are not any form of domestic or foreign disinformation. Any suggestion to the contrary is false and offensive. I am the recipient of the email published 7 days ago by the New York Post, which showed a copy to Hunter Biden and Rob Walker. That email is genuine. This afternoon, I received a request from the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs and the Senate Committee on Finance requesting all documents related to my business's affairs with the Biden family, as well as with various foreign entities and individuals. I have extensive relevant records and communications, and I intend to produce those items to both committees in the immediate future. I am the grandson of a 37-year Army intelligence officer, the son of a 20-plus-year career naval officer, and the brother of a 28-year career naval flight officer. I myself served our country for 4 years and left the Navy as Lieutenant Bobulinski. I held a high-level security clearance and was instructor and then CTO for a Naval Nuclear Power Training Command. I take great pride in the time my family and I served this country. I am also not a political person. What few campaign contributions I have made in my life were made to Democrats. If the media and big tech companies had done their jobs over the past several weeks, I would be irrelevant to this story. Given my long-standing service and devotion to this great country, I could no longer allow my family's name to be associated or tied to Russian disinformation or implied lies with false narratives dominating the media right now. After leaving the military, I became an institutional investor, investing extensively around the world and on every continent. I have traveled to over 50 countries. I believe, hands down, we live in the greatest country in the world. What I'm outlining is fact. I know it is fact because I lived it. I am the CEO of Sino-Hawk Holdings, which was a partnership between the Chinese operating company through CEFC Chairman Yi and the Biden family. I was brought into the company to be the CEO by James Gillar and Hunter Biden. The reference to the big guy in the much publicized May 13, 2017 email is in fact a reference to Joe Biden. The other JB reference in that email is Jim Biden, Joe's brother. Hunter Biden called his dad the big guy, or my chairman, and frequently referenced asking him for his sign-off or advice on various potential deals that we were discussing. I've seen Vice President Biden saying he never talked to Hunter about his business. I've seen firsthand that's not true. Because it wasn't just Hunter's business, they said they were putting the Biden family name and the legacy on the line. I realized the Chinese were not really focused on a healthy financial ROI. They were looking at this as a political or influence investment. Once I realized that Hunter wanted to use the company as his personal piggy bank by just taking money out of it as soon as it came in from the Chinese, I took steps to prevent that from happening. The Ron Johnson report connected some dots in a way that shocked me. It made me realize the Bidens had gone behind my back and gotten paid millions of dollars by the Chinese, even though they told me they hadn't. It wouldn't do that to their partners. I would ask the Biden family to address the American people and outline the facts so I can go back to being irrelevant. And so I am not put in a position to have to answer those questions for them. I don't have a political axe to grind. I just saw behind the Biden curtain, and I grew concerned with what I saw. The Biden family aggressively leveraged the Biden family name to make millions of dollars from foreign entities, even though some were from communist-controlled China. God bless America. That's the full statement of Tony Bobulinski, who is the recipient of the email that has caused so much controversy in recent days and which has been censored by Facebook and Twitter. When I come back, Donald Trump was in Gastonia, North Carolina, but before I go, I want to ask you about Alliance Defending Freedom. Have you given something to it? Have you given something to it? They are fighting right now in the state of Oregon. I'm going to talk to David Cortman later in the show. The governor of Oregon has opened up public schools and kept closed Christian schools of the same size, her spokesman saying, because they can't afford to have the public schools go out of business while people enroll their kids in Christian schools. Alliance Defending Freedom will be in court and will defend Christian schools in Oregon, but they do that for free because of the generosity of people like you. Please go to HughHewitt.com, scroll to the very top to the banner that says, "Will you fight for your freedom?" and make a $100 contribution or your best gift, your very best gift. Or call 866-359-9644 and do so this morning. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
We never heard an
Hewitt for Alliance Defending Freedom. I am their partner, as you should be, in their ongoing support to defend religious liberty and free speech in the United States. Not just for Christians, not just for Catholics, not just for Mormons and Jews, but for everybody. And they do it for free because of the generosity of people like you. Please go to HughHewitt.com and contribute to the banner at the very top. Please give generously today. Defend your freedoms.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
A YouTube channel, 1.5 million subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers. And it's Keith and Kevin. The brothers are twins. So, yes, I have a lot of questions still. I want to get back to the victim thing. One of you were saying, and is so critical, it is a lot easier to believe you're a victim than to look in the mirror.
Yeah, it's easier to blame somebody else for your inadequacies than to look in the mirror and fix the situation yourself. Because whenever you fail at something, Dennis, it's not failure; it's an opportunity for you to learn from that. That's how all successful people are. They fail and they learn from their failures.
Right.
I think a lot of people on the left, when they make a horrible decision, they fail at something, they blame somebody else.
Yeah. One of the biggest detriments to the black community is identity politics. I mean, me being us being in the military, us being working in Fortune 500 companies all life, from every black person I ever known, man, they always had this thing with other people being racist when they don't even know that person personally. Like for example, when I went to school and I got a degree in accounting. Once I got that degree, Dennis, I went to I want to say 15 interviews. No one ever called me back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
At 8:03, as I was about to come on the show, I tweeted out, this is now no longer Hunter Biden scandal, it's Joe Biden scandal, and I included a photograph from the Daily Mail of Hunter Biden, drugged up and sitting in a bathtub. And the second I pressed send on my Twitter account, I got a message: you have been locked out of your account for violating Twitter's service rules.
Charlie Kirk, a new addition to our Salem lineup, Dr. G, as you know, same thing happened to him. Here's what he said.
We are seeing right now that big tech has become the enforcement and the communication arm of the Biden campaign and the Democrat Party. If you're a socialist or a Democrat watching this right now, or an independent, it should bother you that a multi-trillion-dollar conglomeration of companies have the power to be able to silence opinions they do not like. It is undemocratic, it is anti-American, and every single person that believes in a free society should be outraged and, quite honestly, compelled to action against what these tech companies have been able to do to our country.
They're not social media platforms. They are propaganda arms. And if you are a conservative and you're an effective communicator, sooner or later, whether you're Larry Elder, whether you're Charlie Kirk, or whether you're Dr. G, they will come after you.
And Dr. Gorka, it's not just about followers, because as I mentioned, I've been averaging about 2,000 new followers per day. And also, every post I put up there, I averaged about 15,000 views. No matter what it was, 15,000. Now, no matter what it is, I'm averaging about 5,000.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. If President Trump makes a comeback and pulls off yet another upset victory on November the 3rd, it will be because he relied on the disgust of the American people with elites. Trump will again run on a platform of America first, on rebuilding the economy he built once before until it was shuttered by the novel coronavirus. He'll point to his clear-eyed view of today's aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party and to the strengthening of our military buildup, a growing Navy, the Space Force, and the revitalized nuclear deterrent. Welcome back, America. Donald Trump was in North Carolina last night. Massive crowd. And I mean massive crowd. I'm Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway. I've never seen a North Carolina crowd like this. I've done a lot of events down in North Carolina for various candidates over the years. I think Tom Tillis is going to walk away with this because Cal Cunningham burned out and hit the ground. And the reason he's hiding is that there's got to be a second affair. It is not. And when there's one, that doesn't necessarily mean two, but when there's two, that usually means 4 to 6. If you know unfortunate marital infidelity over the years, Cal Cunningham, wow, in his own house, in this campaign, I do understand his staying out of sight. He doesn't want to injure his family anymore. And I think he's hoping to lose the race. And I think he's hoping to find a place to go away and repair his life. But Tom Tillis is right. He should come out and tell people before they vote for him, for Tom Tillis, why he has lied to everybody in North Carolina. Donald Trump, though, had this massive crowd. He made a quick prediction, cut 15.
We're going to win this state 13 days. This great state. And we're going to win 4 more years in the White House.
I'm starting to feel great about the Senate with Jason Miller moving up to Jason Lewis moving up to a tie in Minnesota. John James ahead in Michigan. Joni Ernst is ahead in Iowa. I haven't seen any Maine polling, but I still believe Susan Collins is beloved in Maine, most effective senator. Even if she votes against Amy Coney Barrett, I don't believe Republicans will hold it against her. She votes her conscience, and I don't think she wanted to have the vote before the election. I don't know what she's going to do on Monday. But Donald Trump talked about demanding Rory Cooper open up North Carolina, which he's kept closed to try and help Cal Cunningham, which isn't helping Cal Cunningham because Cal Cunningham self-immolated, cut 16.
By the way, I love this state. You got to get your governor to open up your state here. Got to get him to open up your state, governor. It's time. You've been long enough. Watch, November 4th, North Carolina, we're opening up.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. There's a story in the Telegraph today about the United Kingdom. The second wave of the COVID, which is happening, as was predicted in the fall as winter approached, is far less deadly than wave 1. Why? It's the same virus, but we've learned how to deal with it, recognize it, and how to treat it. Not that it's not fatal. It is still fatal to people with particularly delicate underlying conditions. But we've learned how to deal with it, and that is great news. Then Donald Trump got down to business, contrasting what it means to elect a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president, cut 17.
But the first thing Washington Democrats will do if Biden gets elected is pack the Supreme Court with radical left judges who will eliminate your Second Amendment and many other things. Life. Look at the things they have to rule on. They will pack it. Somebody said 16. I said, why not 18? Why not 20? Why not 22? And he's got to also tell us who the judges are. He won't tell. He won't talk, because if he does, he's going to totally lose the radical left.
He's right. Joe Biden is silent on this, but they will pack the court. It is a disaster. That's why you've got to get out there and vote for Martha McSally in Arizona, Susan Collins in Oregon, Tom Tillis in North Carolina, David Perdue in Georgia. Cut number 18.
You know, Biden's going to raise your taxes. We could go $4 trillion. Everyone says, what does that mean? You know what it means? It means a lot. They're going to raise your taxes by $4 trillion, triggering a mass exodus of jobs out of America into foreign countries. You know how many jobs I brought in? I brought in jobs that were just stifled because our taxes were so crazy. The Biden tax hikes will wipe out up to another quarter of the small business income and 25% of all U.S. investment. Your stocks, your 401ks and pensions will be demolished. You'll go into a depression, the likes of which you haven't seen since 1929. That's what's going to happen. He's going to raise your taxes. He's going to put all the regulations back on. I'm sure he'll join the wonderful Paris Accord. How's it working out for France? I don't think so, right?
1-800-520-1234. Like yesterday, I'm limiting this to first-time callers who did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016. I was kind of surprised by what happened yesterday. We had so many people call up who have changed their minds from 2016 and are voting for Trump. Maybe they didn't vote in 2016. They're voting this year. Maybe they voted for somebody else. Maybe they voted for Hillary in 2016, but they're voting for Trump. If that's you, I'd like to talk to you about it. 1-800-520-1234, connections to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. If President Trump makes a comeback and pulls off yet another upset victory on November the 3rd, it will be because he relied on the disgust of the American people with elites. Trump will again run on a platform of America first, on rebuilding the economy he built once before until it was shuttered by the novel coronavirus. He'll point to his clear-eyed view of today's aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party and to the strengthening of our military buildup, a growing Navy, the Space Force, and the revitalized nuclear deterrent. Trump will also run on his massive deregulation and the appointment of justices and judges who are faithful to the Constitution. And often hysterical media endlessly chants the same anti-Trump refrains. But voters have to ask themselves, which man do they want squaring off against Xi Jinping, rebuilding the economy, appointing judges, and funding the military? Trump can embrace this disdain of elites that is widespread, and yes, he can win again. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
There's been a lot of talk about social media censorship and these tech companies going after opinions and people that they do not like. As I am speaking to you right now, I am locked out of Twitter. I do not have access to my Twitter account. So over the weekend, our team was going through some tweet ideas, and we saw this story that was originally from ProPublica about the Pennsylvania's rejection of mail-in ballots. It was rewritten by many other reputable news agencies, and in the title, it said Pennsylvania rejected 320,000 ballots. So we just took the essence of the story. It was widely reported and tweeted it out. 19 hours later, it turned out that the story added the word applications to it. Now, mind you, at the time we were tweeting it, it was absolutely and completely what was the drumbeat of the media coverage. We were not trying to mislead people. We were not having the intention to try and deceive or to try to interfere in an election. And so then Twitter basically comes to us last evening in a pseudo-hostage situation. I said this on Steve Hilton's show last night. It went somewhat viral, where they said either you're going to delete this tweet, and until you make a decision on that, you are not allowed access to any of your 1.8 million followers on Twitter. And so we kind of took a time out and a pause as we were in Nakatomi Plaza, basically, in some sort of a Die Hard scene where they are holding us hostage, saying that if you do not bend the knee and you admit guilt, then you don't get access back to your Twitter account. Now, mind you, it's a lot more nuanced than that, though, because as soon as you admit the guilt, you're basically put into a proverbial Twitter jail box. You're handcuffed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Why is Joe Biden in hiding? He's in hiding for one simple reason. He can't take CBS News that corresponded to this keeps asking the question, hey, are these emails validated? He calls it a smear campaign right away. Remember, and all your audience should remember, no one in the Biden campaign has come out and said that these emails are not authentic. No surrogate has come forward, and here's why. The surrogates all call, as you know, Seb, the surrogates all call the campaign and say, hey, look, if I'm going to go out there, I'm not going to have a limb sawed off on the back of me. Is it authentic or is it not? And of course, they're telling them, yeah, watch out here. That's why no surrogates have called out and said it's not authentic. What you have is there running dogs out there doing this ridiculous, Russia. This is Russian, intel. That's absurd. This is the hard drive from hell. It's all Hunter Biden's. And here's the fact. They actually know what's on the hard drive now. They know, we can't explain how they know it, but they know what's on the hard drive. That's why Joe Biden is traumatized. Joe Biden is individually and personally traumatized. Not just what's on here, what it exposes about his character as a man, his character as a father, his character as a grandfather, his character really as a politician and as a potential chief magistrate and commander in chief of the United States. So I think it's devastating.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. If you're on a college campus today or have a child on campus, there's a solid chance you'll hear this: all white people are racist. You might hear this too: America is founded on white supremacy. These two sentences are not mere overheated emotion. They express an ideology called critical race theory, or CRT, which argues that race is a social construct made by white people. Just as race was once used to enslave and terrorize, so it is used today to keep America unequal, unfair, and hostile to minorities. The Trump administration just took symbolic and courageous action against CRT. It issued a memo to federal agencies calling for the end of the government's CRT racial sensitivity trainings, terming them divisive anti-American propaganda.
Welcome back, America. Let me give you a quick market update here on the Hugh Hewitt Show, brought to you by Birch Gold. You can buy all the gold you want at hughgold.com. You can move a portion of your IRA or 401k to the safest of all investments, gold and precious metals. They will hold it for you, put it in a vault, absolutely take care of it. 5-star ratings at the end of the universe. Birch Gold is highly regarded and absolutely reliable. If you don't want to keep what you buy in your safety deposit box or a safe and you want to use your IRA or your 401k, text my name, Hugh, to Birch Gold via 474747. Just text HUGH to 474747 or visit hughgold.com. Yesterday, the Dow was down 97 points, the NASDAQ off 31, the S&P down almost 8. Everything overseas is red except Hong Kong, which is barely a little bit green. I don't think there's going to be a stimulus deal. I told you that yesterday. Gold this morning has dropped a bit. Gold is at 1,920, so back down near the other end of 1,900. The 10-year Treasury is at 0.82%, climbing up. Perfect time for gold. Always a good time for gold. Birch Gold via hughgold.com or text my name, Hugh, to 474747. Let me also remind you 8 questions about race. I want to talk to you about this new book. Bishop Aubrey Shines was on my show this week. Bishop Shines has written this book so that you, mainstream conservative center-right people, and the Democrats who listen can deal with the 8 questions about race that he talks about. Is the justice system unfair to black people? What is Black Lives Matter, the organization? To get your copy, just go to 8questionsaboutace.com. While you're there, you can buy copies for friends and families, for your fellow churchgoers. That's 8questionsaboutace.com, a sponsor of the program. Let me now finish a couple more Donald Trump cuts and then go to people who've changed their mind. Donald Trump in Gastonia last night about China, cut 19.
In addition, he let communist China plunder your jobs while his family raked in millions from China and foreign nations. Think of it.
Say this about Biden Center at Penn State, cut 20.
His so-called Biden Center at the University of Pennsylvania has already received $70 million from China. $70 million. That can't be possible. Is that possible?
Trump's on full stride now. I can't believe the guy was in the hospital with COVID 2 weeks ago. He's fully on stride. Cut 21.
I'm keeping the terrorists, jihadists, and violent extremists the hell out of our country, if that's okay with you. And I will never say it because it's not good to say it, and I'm knocking on nice, beautiful wood because I can tell it's ours because they spend a lot of money on building these things. But you haven't seen too much happening on that front, have you, huh? You notice? Okay, well, keep your eyes open. Okay, keep your eyes open because they'd love to do something. Just keep your eyes open. But there's a reason for things not happening also.
Cut number 22.
So I want to send a message tonight to America's incredible moms. The moms are heroes. They really are. They're heroes. And they know better than anyone that their children do belong in school. And they want their children to go back to school. I will open your schools. Biden will close your schools.
He went on to talk about the Biden agenda, cut 23.
Biden is also pledging mass amnesty, and free federal health care for illegal aliens. And we all have a heart. It will obliterate Medicare and Social Security with that. But we all have a heart. The problem, I want to take care of everybody. The problem is our country will be flooded with tens of millions of people. Free health care, free education. I always say for them, it drives them crazy. Everybody gets a free Rolls Royce, and then they say, I am misrepresenting. They don't get a Rolls Royce. But no, but think of it. Free health care. And I will always protect your Medicare and your Social Security.
If you saw the size of this rally in North Carolina last night, it's extraordinary. Meanwhile, Joe Biden did a basement interview with WISN Station 12 ABC in Milwaukee, cut number 3.
He still doesn't have a plan, but I do. I put my plan out in March. You can read it all online. Go to joebiden.com, and it starts with a mask mandate nationwide.
Have a national mask order, cut number 4.
If you notice, last time, according to Chris Wallace, he interrupted the president and me 148 times. I think that's right. He interrupted Mike. The president interrupted Chris Wallace and me 148 times.
Chris Wallace, Mike Wallace, they both work for the same team, which is Joe Biden's team. Cut number 5, the teleprompter fails, Joe, and chaos ensues.
According day 1, and we're going to start to upgrade. We're going to start upping the ante on what we have to do. We make up 15% of the world's problem, and yet, in fact, 85% of it is out there in the rest of the world. So if we just act alone, we're not going to get it done. But there's a whole range of things we can do. We can do it quickly, and we can get it done in a way that has the benefit of also creating millions of good, hard jobs that pay a lot of money. And first, that are going to require us to have union-made facilities.
It made no sense. You heard it. I heard it. The teleprompter failed. He did lash out, though, at Senator Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. Cut number 6.
Wisconsin's Republican Senator Ron Johnson put out a statement on Homeland Security letterhead saying Hunter Biden, together with other Biden family members, profited off the Biden name. Is there any legitimacy to Senator Johnson's claims?
None whatsoever. This is the same garbage Rudy Giuliani, Trump's henchman. It's the last-ditch effort in this desperate campaign to smear me and my family. Even the man who served with him on that committee, the former nominee for the Republican Party, said there's no basis to this. And, and the vast majority of the intelligence people have come out and said there's no basis at all. Ron should be ashamed of himself.
I don't understand why I can't remember Mitt Romney's name. It's one of those blocks. Then a Joe Biden staffer steps in after that question, cut 7.
Amy,
Are you worried about?
That's all the time we have for today.
Can I ask one more, please?
No, you may not, because you brought up the bad stuff. You cannot bring up the bad stuff and talk to Joe Biden. He did a podcast with Brene Brown, cut number 8.
One of the reasons why my Irish heritage has been called into question is because I don't hold grudges. And the fact is that I'm convinced that we have to form an administration that looks and represents the American people across the board, and also someone who is ready, God forbid, on day 1 that they could step up and be the president of the United States. And I think Kamala met all those requirements.
Kamala, president of the United States on day 1. I think she's tough and smart and very left. I don't think she's ready to be president. Now, back to the phone. Tom in Ohio. You are a first-time caller. Good morning, Tom. Who are you voting for?
Trump.
Did you do so in 2016?
Yes. And we're going to get rid of Tim Ryan with Christina Hagan.
You know, Tim's a friend of mine. Where are you from up in my neck of the woods?
I'm actually from Niles.
Oh, you're a Niles guy. Did you go to, are you a Red Devil?
Yeah, Red Dragons.
Red Dragons. You know, we used to beat Niles like a drum. Warren Kennedy Eagles did. You know that, Tom. Until we gave you Tony Napolet as your football coach, you guys were helpless. Did you ever swim at Waddell Park?
Oh, yeah, when we were kids.
So how old are you?
58.
I was your lifeguard, buddy. Honest to goodness, I was. I was a lifeguard at Waddell Park, so I took care of you then. I'm taking care of you. Make sure you get people out to vote early. Make sure you get everybody out to vote. The Steel Valley is Trump country. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I used to take care of everyone at Waddell Park. There was no one named Corn Pop there. It was a pretty interesting place. Niles, Ohio in the summer. Honest to goodness, it was a pretty interesting place. Dave is in Ohio. Hi, Dave. Did you vote for Trump in 2016?
No, sir.
Who'd you vote for?
Unfortunately, Hillary Clinton. I'm a union member. I'm a member of a union here. I work on elevators, and they kind of lead you to vote nothing but Democrat Party down the ticket. And I kind of seen the light over the last 4 years, and I'm definitely voting for Donald Trump this time around.
Which part of Ohio are you in? I'm on all over the state. So, you're in Columbus? 98.9? Are you listening on 98.9? Well, go Browns. And the Buckeyes are back this week. Poor Nebraska, huh?
Yeah, it should be quite a one-sided affair.
Yeah, Nebraska is going to be like those cardboard cutouts in the stands at the end. Hey, Dave, thank you. Let's go up to Michigan, the state up north. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Hugh. How are you?
Good. Good morning. Did you vote for Trump 4 years ago?
No, I didn't. I voted for Evan McMullen.
Why did you do that, and are you voting for him this year?
Well, I voted for McMullen because I personally just thought Trump was too much. I couldn't handle him. I still don't like him, but I am going to be voting for Trump this year.
So someone who doesn't like the president personally is going to vote for him. Why?
Well, I like that he cut taxes. It paid for my wedding, the tax refund we got.
There you go.
I like what he's done with the judges.
Yep.
And also, I work in the media. I work at a radio station in Detroit, so I look at things from a different perspective, and I am just amazed at how slanted the media is. He's his own worst enemy, but they go after him with such ferocity. It's incredible. I've gotten so that I can't even. I end up watching everything on C-SPAN because I want to watch it for myself instead of having people tell me what they think I just saw.
Hey, Mark, are you voting for John James as well? He's on the show later this morning.
I probably will, primarily because I'm voting against Peters as opposed to John James. But yes, I will probably vote for him. Mm-hmm.
That's great. John James is a good man. In fact, I'm going to play his ad from his grandmother right now. Cut 28.
I'm John James, and I approve this message.
My name is Annie Nix. I'm 91 years old. I'm John John's grandmother. He was raised right and had to be raised right. You always get yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am from John John. He respects senior citizens. John understands how important health care is, and he would do all that he can to protect it. John respects senior citizens and protects senior citizens because John protects me.
I must tell you, John James had have you seen that ad on TV, Mark?
No, actually, I haven't. It's the first I've heard of it.
You've got to see that. Grandma is not for messing around with. She is. I'll talk. When you go to West Point, you learn to sit up straight. I think he learned before he went to West Point. Hey, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Coming back with more of your phone calls, 1-800-520-1234. Time for ReliefFactor.com. Today is a day off, but I still take it. I want to emphasize that to you folks. After 866, I'm taking the day off, and I carry curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. I got a lot of coffee this morning, and down the hatch with my ReliefFactor.com. I'm looking over there in the corner. The bag's getting a little empty. I have no more. Dwayne took it. ReliefFactor.com. $19.95 is a starter pack. I take it every morning at 6:45, and I tell the whole country at that point, remember, before you go out the door, get your Relief Factor. Your commute will be better. Your day will be better. Your exercise at the gym midday or after work will be better. Or your walk this morning will be better. Whatever you're going to do, go get your ReliefFactor.com. The very best supplement, the only supplement I take, is ReliefFactor.com. $19.95. Get you a starter pack. Join the tens of thousands of people who take it and come right back here because you're listening to The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of The Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Alliance Defending Freedom.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. If you're on a college campus today or have a child on campus, there's a solid chance you'll hear this. All white people are racist. You might hear this too. America is founded on white supremacy. These two sentences are not mere overheated emotion. They express an ideology called critical race theory, or CRT, which argues that race is a social construct made by white people. Just as race was once used to enslave and terrorize, so it is used today to keep America unequal, unfair, and hostile to minorities. The Trump administration just took symbolic and courageous action against CRT. It issued a memo to federal agencies calling for the end of the government's CRT racial sensitivity trainings, terming them divisive anti-American propaganda. Does America have real issues in its past? Yes. Have we made real progress that we must guard carefully? Also yes. The White House has led well here. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Here's Shelley, a lifelong Democrat, weighing in here in the ReliefFactor.com studios. Hey, Shelley, thanks very much for your patience and joining us today. How are you?
Well, thanks, Mike.
Good. Good. What do you think? Who are you going to vote for in 13 days, Shelley?
Oh, well, I'm going to vote for Trump, and I wanted to make the point because I know there's a lot of folks like me out there who have been lifelong Democrats and have never, in over 40 years of active voting, I've never crossed the blue line and voted red, but I will on November 3rd or before.
Wow. What was there a tipping point? Why are you making such a departure from what you've done all your life?
Well, it's multifaceted, but I mean, in some ways, I think when this whole thing started with COVID and the lockdowns, something came over me like I got hit by a brick, and I realized that something really up was going on. And it was also, you know, when this just was coming from my bones. It was very intuitive too. But I'm the kind of person who's fairly open, and I started to put together all these little pieces of the puzzle that I had accumulated over a lifetime. Suddenly, all started to come together, and I realized what was going on. I realized that the Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party anymore.
Right.
And they've been hijacked.
Right. Right. I'm so grateful for your clarity and your honesty and your willingness to cross the party line. And it's a reminder, there's a lot of Democrats like Shelley all over the country. I've got friends who are Democrats who said they couldn't dream of voting for a Democrat in 2020. They just they can't believe what people are experiencing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Imagine if Stephanopoulos had pushed him on the China Hunter Biden stuff. This is a monumental scandal, and they literally didn't even mention it. I mean, actually, that's the scandal that
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Back to the phones. Who's voting for Trump for the first time? David in New Mexico. Good morning, David. You're up early.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can indeed. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Hugh?
Good. What are you doing up this early in New Mexico?
Oh, I'm working at the moment.
Okay. Well, did you vote for Trump in at 16?
No, I did not. I didn't actually vote for anybody. But I am now, absolutely, voting for Trump this year, without a doubt.
Why?
Because he wants to protect oil and gas, and that's what I specialize in my entire life. And a lot of people don't know how important oil and gas is. And like the other left, they want to take it away. Why? Why do they want to take it away?
Well, they're afraid of climate change, but I did hear Joe Biden say fossil fuels are gone. Fossil fuels are over.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, like that, not only that, but, you know, I've seen the clear picture of Trump, you know, like back in 2016, you know, like most people, I didn't agree how he, you know, was on stage, how he talked and how rude he was, you know, but, you know, that's not what a president is. What a president is a person that protects the country. And it doesn't matter what their personality is. It matters of how they react. You know what I mean? And the reactions I've seen in Trump past 4 years has been amazing.
Did you vote at all, David? Last 4 years ago, did you vote for Hillary or did you not vote?
No, first-time voter.
Well, good. You know, New Mexico is one of those funny states where I just put it down in the blue column, but people think funny things are going on there too. Hey, David, thank you. Let me talk to Crystal in Virginia. Good morning, Crystal.
Hi, Hugh. Good morning.
What do you think? Where are you in Virginia, by the way?
Southwest Virginia, near Big Stone Gap.
Well, great to have you. Thank you.
I listen to your show every morning, and I take my the pill every time you take yours with your lukewarm coffee. I do too.
Relief Factor. You bet. Good for you. See, that's why I remind people every day. How you work for you, Crystal?
Pardon?
Does it work for you?
It does.
I knew
excellent.
it. Good part of a good diet.
Yes.
So you didn't vote 4 years ago?
I did not vote at all. No.
Why not?
Actually, I was a registered Democrat, but I didn't like any candidate. But this year I am voting for Trump, and I actually changed my affiliate. I am a Republican.
Why? What changed your mind?
I'm better off now than I was 4 years ago, that's for sure. And he's running this country the way it should have been ran a long time ago.
Well, Crystal, that sums it up very, very well. And thank you for calling. Keep working down there. Get someone else to vote. Kathy in Ventura, California. You're up early, Kathy. Who'd you vote for 4 years ago?
Well, I did vote for Trump. I didn't follow the rules. Sorry. I am a Trump voter. I'm one of those. I'm an anomaly. I'm a California woman who votes for Trump and votes conservative Republican. I don't vote for a personality. I vote for an ideology. And I'm not looking for a savior. I already have one. I'm just looking for the leader of our country who's going to drain the swamp that I've been watching for all my life. The junk that's going on there in Washington, it's just maddening.
Yeah, but you broke the rules, Kathy.
Well, I did vote for Trump in 2016, so I wasn't one of those non-Trumpers. Sorry.
You broke the rules.
I'm a Reagan Republican.
You broke the rules. It's a terrible thing. There's a timeout for you, but we still appreciate your call. Thank you, Kathy. John in Maryland.
Good morning, Hugh.
Good morning. Did you vote in 2016?
I did not.
And so, but you are voting this time, or you have already voted in Maryland already?
I haven't voted yet, but I'm going to vote for Trump.
Why?
I think he's doing a good job. I don't think my vote will count in Maryland, but I'm going to vote anyway.
Well, it matters actually in the overall turnout. Have you been polled?
No.
You know, I'm just astonished we haven't had anyone polled yet. But I also, because there are a lot of polls going on, but I am astonished at the number of people who didn't vote 4 years ago who are voting the first time for Trump. I think there are a lot of those. I really do. Bob in Palm Harbor, Florida. Bob?
Yes, sir. It's Backgammon Bob, Palm Harbor, Florida. Just wanted to mention, I think the main reason I started to vote for Trump is he has so much energy and is competent. Doesn't matter his actions that much. The main thing is he gets his job done, and he has the ability to put a lot of attention to his detail, to his work, just like he did in his business, and the fact that he's getting things done.
Did you vote for him 4 years ago?
No, sir.
Who'd you vote for?
Yes. No, I did not vote 4 years ago.
You just skipped it?
Yeah, I would have voted for Hillary, but things just came up or something. I mean, I would not have voted for Hillary. I hate that. Anyway.
Well, you know, there's early voting in Florida. I hope you get out there and register, get your vote in early. Another didn't vote for Trump 4 years ago, voting for Trump this time. 1-800-520-1234. 1-800-520-1234. I want to hear from first-time voters for Trump who did not vote for him 4 years ago. Why? On the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Imagine if Stephanopoulos had pushed him on the China Hunter Biden stuff. This is a monumental scandal. And they literally didn't even mention it. I mean, actually, that's the scandal, that the journalists have ceased to care about truth or objectivity or even the state of America.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if maybe George Stephanopoulos was worried that, China would cut off their feed to the program if he mentioned them and Biden in the same sentence, But then the scandal, of course, as well, is not only is the mainstream media not doing their job, they're not journalists anymore, they're activists. And we have to keep that in mind when we're all curating content and when we're reading some of these pieces. I mean, I read some of the mainstream media from the New York Times, the Washington Post, and just think this is so blatantly partisan. It's not journalism anymore. They're just stories. I mean, they don't have breaking news like we were talking about. They have breaking opinion. That's all that it is. It's all slanted. And you could see that from the questions and the fact that they were totally silent. George Stephanopoulos refused to push Joe Biden on the issues when he is running allegedly for president. I mean, we know that it's actually Kamala Harris that's running for president. Biden even said that he's running for Senate, but they refuse to push him. And not only that, Facebook and Twitter are then taking down stories from the New York Post and saying that we can't retweet this, as the American public who are actually looking at content and a major national news organization is being censored from what's supposed to be an online platform of public discourse.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Michael Medved at michaelmedved.com for Town Hall. The appointment of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the United States Supreme Court counts as a masterstroke and easily one of the best decisions of Donald Trump's presidency. In an election season when liberals and media try to characterize conservatives as old, angry, bigoted, extreme, and lacking in empathy, Judge Barrett displays the opposite characteristics. At age 48, she's youthful, a genial consensus builder, and mother of 7, including a special needs child and 2 adopted kids from Haiti. On a court dominated for decades by Yale and Harvard graduates, she's a breath of Midwestern fresh air, beloved by her students at Notre Dame. Most importantly, she'll give new life to the originalist thinking of her mentor, Justice Antonin Scalia, in stressing what the Constitution actually says, not what Judge wanted to say. As Americans have been losing faith in public institutions, Judge Barrett can help to restore their confidence. I'm Michael Medved.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
And every interview I went to asked him the same question, but I didn't have a good, solid answer for him. So my next interview, I answered every question. I was very articulate. I gave him great answers, and I got the job. Even got more money
after 15 rejections.
After 15 rejections. I could have very easily.
By the way, did you wear a suit and tie to the last one?
I wore a suit and tie to all of them.
Okay, just checking, because you guys do not wear a suit and tie on your podcast.
Right. We're pretty laid back on that part.
Yeah, I was going to say, right. If you showed up in one of those T-shirts, that might have been one of the reasons. But all right, now it's clear to me. Okay, that's fair. So, So the great challenge is to get that message to more blacks. You're hurting your lives by buying this victim mentality.
Yeah, but. Hollywood and our culture, our musicians, our celebrities, our civil rights, man, they got their hooks so deep in the black people, you can't even you can't even talk to them. They're so mentally enslaved. They don't even know they got shackles on them. I try to talk to black people. No, I'm not going to dance with a white man. You sound like a white person. I'm saying, no, man, I'm just being clear. You can't. Everything's just It's not about being black and African. We all are just people with the same likes, the same wants, the same dreams in America. Drop all that pro-black, pro-Africa. I said, man, you're just an American. Nothing more than that. You're American just like everybody else.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The big story, of course, is the Hunter Biden bombshell, New York Post. Treasure trove of emails, letter from one of his Burisma associates thanking him for arranging a meeting with his dad. There's also an email in which Vice President Joe Biden is referred to as the big guy, and the email implies the big guy is getting a percentage of whatever the deal is they are discussing. Now, if this had just been one fraction of the information I just now gave you as to Ivanka Trump or Donald Trump Jr., there would be 24/7 coverage on CNN, MSNBC, Google News, Yahoo News, staple after staple after staple for the late night comics, where polls show that something like 10 to 15% of young people, believe it or not, get their primary news. They get their primary news from the late night comedians' monologues. I kid you not. And it's fascinating watching CNN, MSNBC, without any evidence whatsoever saying that the story is a Donald Trump right-wing conspiracy theory. Even the Biden administration was not questioning the authenticity of the emails. Even the Biden campaign is now saying, well, there may have been an informal meeting.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. If President Trump makes a comeback and pulls off yet another upset victory on November the 3rd, it will be because he relied on the disgust of the American people with elites. Trump will again run on a platform of America first and on rebuilding the economy he built once before until it was shuttered by the novel coronavirus. He'll point to his clear-eyed view of today's aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party and to the strengthening of our military buildup, a growing Navy, the Space Force, and the revitalized nuclear deterrent. Trump will also run on his massive deregulation and the appointment of justices and judges who are faithful to the Constitution. And often hysterical media endlessly chants the same anti-Trump refrains. But voters have to ask themselves, which man do they want squaring off against Xi Jinping, rebuilding the economy, appointing judges, and funding the military? Trump can embrace this disdain of elites that is widespread, and yes, he can win again. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I found the word on the journalist Slack channel that they decided would best describe a story that they do not want to cover. I actually haven't used this word in quite some time, so I wanted to make sure my definition was completely correct, and it was, which is dubious, which means hesitating or doubting. The front page of the business.
I'm John James, and I approve this message.
My name is Annie Nix. I'm 91 years old. I'm John John's grandmother. He was raised right and had to be raised right. You always get yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am from John John. He respects senior citizens. John understands how important health care is, and he would do all that he can to protect it. John respects senior citizens and protects senior citizens because John protects me.
Morning glory, America. That was Annie Nix. I'm Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway, joined by John James, Michigan's next senator. Welcome back, John James. Good to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show again.
Hey, so glad to be back, Hugh. This is exciting times, man. I'm excited to be in the foxhole with you today.
That is a terrific ad by Annie Nix, your grandmother. You released that, like releasing the Kraken in the last 2 weeks of the campaign. Is that registered with Michigan voters?
Well, she's been my rock for my entire life, and having her be a part of this, we wouldn't have it any other way. I speak a lot about the trials and tribulations that my parents had to make it through, coming from the Jim Crow South, providing additional opportunity for me, and my mom and dad moving from poverty to prosperity in one generation by the grace of God, education and entrepreneurship, and my desire to tear down barriers to the American dream and increase access to the American dream, and taking a look at my grandmother, Annie Nix, 91-year-old Spitfire, somebody who, though there was racial discrimination, she refused to be a victim in her home country, even though she was vulnerable, raised 7 kids by herself as a widow, and everybody's been successful. I truly believe that with God in our lives and with the federal government out of it, we can all be more successful. And somebody who was raised by somebody like Annie Nix, John James, and Sharon James is somebody who we need on the floor of the United States Senate, making sure that everyone, regardless of race, color, and creed, can be more successful.
John James, you're a proud graduate of West Point. I had your classmate on yesterday, Wesley Hunt. He said bad things about you.
Well, Wesley Hunt's a terrible, terrible person. I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't trust him with my family's life. No, Wes Hunt has been a great friend. We graduated West Point in 2004 together. We both became we both became Apache helicopter pilots and was deployed in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Wes Hunt is a tremendous human being, a great family man, and would be a massive benefit not only to his district but to his country. I will be proud to serve again with Wes Hunt.
John James, tell me something. When do you put up your hand, and what year do you say I want to fly Apaches? I mean, what is that the last year that you make that choice?
Well, honestly, see, this is the thing. When you step out on faith and you let God take over, there's no telling where he'll take you, but he will always take you in a way that will bring glory to him and to prosper you. I actually had terrible vision when growing up. I was one of the very first people in the United States military to get LASIK surgery and still qualify for the aviation course and also Ranger School. After getting LASIK surgery in the fall of 2003, was eligible to fly Apaches, went to flight school for a year and a half, and then after flight school, went to Ranger School, which was absolutely incredible. It helped me save lives with my folks over the downrange. As a result of the opportunities that I had, I took the opportunity to go to Ranger School, which helped me understand what it was like on the ground. And when I was flying combat missions in Baghdad and I'd get a distress call from troops in contact, because I knew what it was like on the ground, people who were desperate, people who were face down, people who couldn't go from top down but had to go from bottom up, people who needed resources and air support right now where they were, their lives were on the line. I was able to get support to the ground because I knew what it was like on the ground. And right now, Americans and Michiganders need air support. They need senators who show up for work. They need senators who understand what it's like in the real world, a combat veteran who's protected lives before and knows how to keep Americans safe because they've done it before, a business leader who understands what it takes to grow our economy. When I grew my family business by 233% in 5 years, added over 100 jobs in an industry that needed a bailout, in a city that went bankrupt, in a state that was hit hard by the recession, we're going to need somebody who knows how to take us forward, emerging from the physical and economic health crisis caused by COVID, because I know what it's like on the ground. I can get more effective fires, more effective resources to people in America who need help right now. And Gary Peters is a career politician. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a war fighter. He's a gaslighter. Right now, he is campaigning online. He doesn't know what it's like on the ground because he's been in politics for 30 years. He's been in Washington for 12, and he's been in the Senate for 6. And nobody can point to a thing he's done they had no idea who he was until an election year. This could be the 51st vote for our constitutional republic, and we need to get support for people on the ground right now. If you want to learn more, please go to johnjamesforsenate.com.
That is the website. It is johnjamesforsenate.com, johnjamesforsenate.com. And if you go to johnjamesforsenate.com, you'll see a donate button. I want to ask you, John, about the fact that a lot of elite media like John Harwood, CNN's John Harwood, have been retweeting altered videos of you to make you look bad. I mean, you're not just running against Gary Peters and the Democrats. You're running against the media that wants Peters back because they want Chuck Schumer to run the Senate. I don't know what the money race is like, but you also have to work against a lot of distorted media. I don't know if they're dupes or if they're intentional about it, but they have been retweeting disinformation.
Well, it's no surprise. But you know what? We've outraised Senator Peters 4 quarters in a row, 5 election cycles. 5 reporting quarters in a row. But all that means is the good Lord and the people out there are supporting. And this race is between me and Senator Peters, and it's about the people of the state of Michigan and this great nation. And the people out there, the pundits, know about it. They're tweeting altered things because they know that Senator Peters is somebody who will vote 90. He says he's bipartisan, right? But a heck of a bipartisan who vote 95% with Chuck Schumer and 85% with Bernie Sanders, which is a solid A as a New York senator and a solid B as a socialist. That doesn't represent Michigan, and that's not what's best for our country. And so you have to have people, the powerful, who are attacking a private citizen, which is dangerous, in protecting the government, protecting the incumbent, because he has nothing to run on himself. So I'm excited to have your support, and with your support, 95% of all of our donations are $100 and less, and the average donation size is $31. And again, by the grace of God and your support, JohnJamesForSenate.com, we will have the gas in the tank. We will have the fuel to make sure we get the truth out there.
Now, John, in terms of Detroit, you're winning the rest of the state handily, except Ann Arbor and Detroit. Ann Arbor, I don't know if the kids aren't there. That's in the same numbers, so that may actually help you. I'm not sure what Michigan's doing. Their law school is my alma mater, and they were crazy left when I was there, and they're even crazier left now. But what about Detroit? What was the margin when you first ran? What do you think the margin's got to be for you to win this time?
Well, you know what? I don't have a black message. I don't have a white message. I have a red, white, and blue message. And right now, Gary Peters has failed all of us, regardless of race, color, creed. I believe that people in Detroit want the same thing that people in Alpena want. I believe that they want somebody who will show up, show respect, and show love. I think they want somebody who will finally get results. And right now, the choice is the same. Last time we got single digits in areas of Detroit. This time we're looking at getting double digits because people are looking at, and they're looking out and they're looking at what Democrats haven't done for them, and they're saying, you know what, maybe a 39-year-old black guy from Detroit who started school in Detroit public schools and was just given additional opportunity, maybe this guy whose father was a truck driver and his father was a mason and his father was a sharecropper and his father was a slave, maybe this guy might have a better idea of what's required than Senator Gary Peters, who continues to double his wealth while people in Detroit fall behind. We need change. We need it now. And I believe that with all your support, we're going to be able to show exactly what we can do, broadening the back of the elephant to include millennials and minorities in a way that Democrats don't want to happen. And that's why they're throwing everything and the kitchen sink at me from all over the nation, because they know that I'm not going to flip this seat. I'm going to flip their entire narrative that they control me, that they control us. But nobody nobody owns me, Hugh. And I think that's what they're terrified of. I'm an independent thinker raised by 2 Democrats in the Jim Crow South and Annie Nix, and that's what they know. And we're going to make sure that we hold them accountable in this election.
Quick last question, John James. The website is johnjamesforsenate.com. If Gary Peters walked down the street in Ann Arbor, no one would know who he is. Does that matter anymore? I mean, absolutely nobody knows who he is in D.C. He's never been visible. He's never done a thing. Does that matter to voters? You got like 30 seconds.
Yeah, Gary Peters is the invisible man. Nobody knew his name until the election year. That is unacceptable. I'm used to being held accountable every day, not every election year. Michigan deserves better. Senator Peters skipped over 80% of the hearings to hold China accountable, over 80% of the hearings to protect us from pandemic preparedness, and Democrats are throwing tons of money into his race to save his hide. I need you to help to help me save this nation, to save our constitutional republic. This could be the 51st vote, guys, in the United States Senate, and I need you in the foxhole with me. God bless you. Let's fly.
Thank you, John. John James for Senate.com. John James for Senate.com. Help him out, America. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
A silver casket was wheeled to the front of a Brooklyn nursing home yesterday with 6,500 copies of Governor Cuomo's new book in the casket, protesting his COVID-19 policies and representing the 6,500 people who reportedly died from the coronavirus in nursing homes across the state as a result of Cuomo's insane mandate that nursing homes had to take COVID-19 patients. They were begging him, no, we can't take, it's going to spread through the nursing homes like wildfire. It did. 6,500 copies of Cuomo's inconceivable book that he's written in the middle of the pandemic. Every day, Cuomo has a press conference. He sits there and pontificates about how great he's been. He's written a book about it. It's unbelievable. The guy is one of the worst governors in the country, and these goofy liberal Democrats in New York think this guy's some kind of a great leader. They hold him up as a pillar of virtue and leadership. And this guy is so bad, and that's the kind of leadership that the Republicans are trying to defeat in 2 weeks. That's the kind of leadership that is representative of failing and failed cities and states, blue cities, blue states in America.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
It was a kind of a madness. I mean, to have the president debating Savannah Guthrie effectively, and then having Stephanopoulos toss what anyone would have to say were softballs at Joe Biden.
This was actually really interesting to mirror the first debate where you had Chris Wallace, who was supposed to play the role of the moderator, really debating President Trump. And Joe Biden was just there going, come on, man, and throwing some lines in, occasionally. So President Trump was debating Savannah Guthrie. And then Joe Biden was just sitting there as if he's having tea with George Stephanopoulos, really not saying much and not doing anything. And then, of course, the mainstream media comes out and is saying, look at how aggressive President Trump is. Do you really want 4 more years of this absolute exhaustion? And they're trying to paint him as someone who is just this, overtly aggressive ogre, instead of framing this properly, saying it's the mainstream media that has been on the attack for 4 years. And in spite of that, President Trump has actually gotten so much done over the last 4 years, but they won't allow him to actually focus on his accomplishments because they know that if the American people actually hear from him like they do at rallies, which is why the rallies are so effective, if the NBC audience and the ABC audience, anyone who tuned in, if those people who generally aren't the Fox News audience, right, aren't the conservatives, if they actually pay attention to this and hear from President Trump and see who he genuinely is, that's going to go very badly for the mainstream media because they're all in for Joe Biden. They are just...
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Michael Medved at michaelmedved.com for Town Hall. The appointment of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the United States Supreme Court counts as a masterstroke and easily one of the best decisions of Donald Trump's presidency. In an election season when liberals and media try to characterize conservatives as old, angry, bigoted, extreme, and lacking in empathy, Judge Barrett displays the opposite characteristics. At age 48, she's youthful, a genial consensus builder, and mother of 7, including a special needs child and 2 adopted kids from Haiti. On a court dominated for
Welcome back, America. Maybe you're looking at a house on the corner you want to buy. Go to andrewandtodd.com. That was a transition, wasn't it? andrewandtodd.com are lenders with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. You can call them at 888-888-1172 if you don't want to go to their website. But I recommend the website. Answer a couple of questions at andrewandtodd.com, and they and their team at Sierra Pacific Mortgage will get to work and get back to you with the very best choice for you in this market. I told you earlier today, this is the market update brought to you by andrewandtodd.com, that the 10-year Treasury has gone up to 0.82%. It has been steadily 0.01% at a time rising for 2 weeks. It is still an all-time low set of interest rates. Still the best interest rates in the 20 years that I've been on the radio. Still the best time to buy a home or refinance a home in the 20 years that I've done this show, in the 30 years I've been in broadcast, right now. But you have to get started, and you have to go to andrewandtodd.com to get marching along. Early in the morning, everything has turned green abroad. I told you the last hour things were red in England and Germany. Those markets are open, and they're pretty far advanced in their trading day. And they're green, not by much, but they're green. Yesterday, however, the Dow was down 97, the NASDAQ down 31, the S&P down 7, as we continue to play stimulus yo-yo in the United States. I don't believe there's going to be a deal. I don't, but it's not up to me, and it shouldn't matter whether or not you refinance your house. At a minimum, you want to check with andrewandtodd.com to see if you can save money every single month on your mortgage. Give them a call, 888-888-1172. Now, Secretary of State Pompeo had a press conference yesterday, and he got asked whether the Director of National Intelligence, Sean Ratcliffe, who you may have seen with Christopher Wray last night denouncing the Iranian attempt to interfere with our election and the Russian attempt to interfere with our election. They've got a hold of voter registration data, and they are sending people fake emails. Don't believe anything in your inbox. They're hacking. They aren't getting your vote, but they're telling you terrible stuff in your email. Don't believe stuff that sounds crazy. Double, triple check it. It's like Paul's letter to the Bereans. But Mike Pompeo talked yesterday about the Hunter Biden emails, and he said this, cut number 9.
You know, when I was a CI director, I always preferred that people defer to the intelligence community about matters best known to them. I saw DNI Ratcliffe's statement. I have every reason to believe he's got it exactly right.
Thanks. Will?
Thank you so much. Another political issue, it seems, is the email search for Hillary Clinton's emails. And we were just wondering what are those emails that you're looking for, who is releasing them, and when they'll be released. You said before it would be before the election.
What I said is we'd continue to do the work that we have done for an awfully long time, and we'll produce them when they are prepared to be produced. I think it's the 17th time I've been asked this question. I'm going to give you the same answer I gave the previous 16.
When they're ready to be produced. Good for Mike. The Secretary of State is just straightforward. Good for him. A couple more quotes from Donald Trump in North Carolina last night, because the emails reference, the Hunter Biden emails reference a big guy. Donald Trump picks up on that, cut 24.
Another email referenced 10% held by Hunter for the big guy. I wonder who the big guy was. The big guy. He doesn't look so big to me. He doesn't look so big when he walks on the stage. He's not looking too strong. Fragile, very fragile. But the big guy, they call him the big guy.
The big guy, whether or not it's Hunter Biden, today I will have a Washington Post op-ed calling for the appointment of a special counsel. I want it done before the election for this reason. If you have a special counsel appointed after the election and President Trump wins re-election, it will look like revenge politics. If there is no special counsel and nothing happens with either Durham or the Hunter Biden emails, it will look like two systems of justice. I do not like special counsels, but those regulations exist for a time such as this. Danielle in Johnson City, Tennessee. You have 30 seconds, Danielle. Who are you voting for?
I'm voting for Trump.
And why?
Well, it's funny. I'm in Tennessee. I was born and raised in Rochester, New York, and have always been a diehard Democrat. But it's everything that you see. He's a great president. He's done so much. And it's funny. My 17-year-old son is the one that really got my eyes open to everything and made me educate myself. And definitely voting for Trump this year.
Danielle, thank you. Another new Trump voter. Don't go anywhere, America. Chuck Todd is next on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for Alliance Defending Freedom. I am their partner, as you should be, in their ongoing support to defend religious liberty and free speech in the United States. Not just for Christians, not just for Catholics, not just for Mormons and Jews, but for everybody. And they do it for free because of the generosity of people like you. Please go to HughHewitt.com and contribute to the banner at the very top. Please give generously today. Defend your freedoms.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
A YouTube channel, 1.5 million subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers. And it's Keith and Kevin, the brothers, are twins. So, yes, I have a lot of questions still. I want to get back to the victim thing. One of you were saying, and it's so critical, it is a lot easier to believe you're a victim than to look in the mirror.
Yeah, it's easier to blame somebody else for your inadequacies than to look in the mirror and fix the situation yourself. Because whenever you fail at something, then it's not failure; it's an opportunity for you to learn from that. That's how all successful people are. They fail and they learn from their failures.
Right.
I think a lot of people on the left, once they make a horrible decision, they fail at something, they blame somebody else. Yeah. One of the biggest detriments to the black community is identity politics. I mean, me being us being in the military, us being working in Fortune 500 companies all life, from every black person I ever known, man, they always had this thing with other people being racist when they don't even know that person personally. Like for example, when I went to school and I got a degree in accounting. Once I got that degree, Dennis, I went to 15 interviews. No one ever called me back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
At 8:03, as I was about to come on the show, I tweeted out, this is now no longer Hunter Biden scandal, it's Joe Biden scandal, and I included a photograph from the Daily Mail of Hunter Biden, drugged up and sitting in a bathtub. And the second I pressed send on my Twitter account, I got a message, you have been locked out of your account for violating Twitter's service rules.
Charlie Kirk, a new addition to our Salem lineup, Dr. G, as you know, same thing happened to him. Here's what he said.
We are seeing right now that big tech has become the enforcement and the communication arm of the Biden campaign and the Democrat Party. If you're a socialist or a Democrat watching this right now, or an independent, it should bother you that a multi-trillion-dollar conglomeration of companies have the power to be able to silence opinions they do not like. It is undemocratic, it is anti-American, and every single person that believes in a free society should be outraged and, quite honestly, compelled to action against what these tech companies have been able to do to our country.
They're not social media platforms. They are propaganda arms. And if you are a conservative and you're an effective communicator, sooner or later, whether you're Larry Elder, whether you're Charlie Kirk, or whether you're Dr. G, they will come after you.
And Dr. Gorka, it's not just about followers, because as I mentioned, I've been averaging about 2,000 new followers per day. And also, every post I put up there, I averaged about 15,000 views. No matter what it was, 15,000. Now, no matter what it is, I'm averaging about 5,000.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. If President Trump makes a comeback and pulls off yet another upset victory on November the 3rd, it will be because he relied on the disgust of the American people with elites. Trump will again run on a platform of America first and on rebuilding the economy he built once before until it was shuttered by the novel coronavirus. He'll point to his clear-eyed view of today's aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party and to the strengthening of our military buildup, a growing Navy, the Space Force, and the revitalized nuclear deterrent. Trump will also run on his massive deregulation and the appointment of justices and judges who are faithful to the Constitution. And often hysterical media endlessly chants the same anti-Trump refrains. But voters have to ask themselves, which man do they want squaring off against Xi Jinping, rebuilding the economy, appointing judges, and funding the military? Trump can embrace this disdain of elites that is widespread, and yes, he can win again. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway, joined by Chuck Todd, host of Meet the Press. If it's Sundays, it's Meet the Press. Also, Chuck is the political director of NBC News. Chuck, I had good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. I had Mark Meadows on yesterday, and I told the chief of staff that Kristen Welker is a terrific reporter, and she will be fair. I based that on a dozen or so appearances with Kristen. You've worked with her for years and hundreds of appearances. Do you agree with my assessment? She'll be terrific in this job tonight.
I think she's poised to win this debate. But my point is that I just think she's extraordinarily fair. She doesn't get rattled, and she's not going to make this about herself. And
100% agree.
Incredible. Those are the traits you want in a debate moderator. Sure.
The story will not be about Kristen Welker tomorrow, and that means that means it's a good debate. That's the key rule. Is if it's not about you.
I always say the moderator's name. Whenever I've done a debate, I don't want to be in any graph above about 8.
Now,
and by the way, it was moderated by, and that's about it. That's what you want.
That's exactly. Let me go now to some politics. Cal Cunningham has disappeared. Is that race over, or is disappearing allowing him to hang in there?
Well, that race isn't over at all. I mean, the numbers didn't budge that much. I mean, this thing is a coin flip race. I think you see the strategy here. There's, but they're, this is that late in the campaign. I don't think I think you have a candidate that doesn't want to create new news cycle. And so, you do what he's doing. So
you go to ground. Have you ever seen anything like it? A candidate who disappears for 2 weeks?
Disappears is not the right word. I would say just, sort of ducks the media. Yes. I mean, I want to say I feel like this happened in the Tim Hutchinson campaign and in Arkansas late when it looked like he was going to lose. It's in, we've seen it, but it's certainly unusual in such a high profile race because this developed so late. But what I find remarkable, and I don't know whether we talked about this before, what impact was going to be greater on the state of North Carolina, the John Edwards effect or the Donald Trump effect, right? Which is, are they burned out and they go, we've been through this with John Edwards, we don't want this, or has Donald Trump numbed the situation?
Did you see that crowd in North Carolina? Did you see that crowd last night or the crowd in Erie? I'm astonished. Yeah. I'm just genuinely astonished by these crowds. I've never seen. Romney had a crowd at Red Rock in Colorado. Of course, he lost in 2012. That sort of blew me away. But these crowds are bigger than anything I've ever seen.
That's what he does well. I'm always very careful not to use. You got to be careful on crowd size because you just pointed out. Romney got some great crowds. John Kerry got some great crowds. So, at this point in the campaign, I don't pay attention to crowd size.
All right, let me talk to you about the early voting. I just read the New York Times analysis, what we know about the election early voting. It's huge. And they conclude at the end of it, it could mean a red wave. That's what the president says, but we don't really know. Do you have any theory on what the huge early voting means for the election, other than maybe people are worried about COVID?
Now, other than there's two things driving this, COVID, and there is enthusiasm among those that have made their decision, if that makes sense. We've had about 80% of all voters tell us that they're highly enthused for this election, right? They're the ones turning up and voting. So what you're seeing is that. So I do think it's a combination of COVID and sort of, and I hate it, somewhat of an enthusiasm to either vote him out or defend him, right? Vote a little bit. So So I think you're seeing some of that, but I am just being very hesitant. I don't think anybody should draw big conclusions because, there's no doubt this has shifted vote. I'll tell you what it really has done for me. I have never been less comfortable with an upcoming set of exit polls than what I'm coming up with now. And I'm going to be a big skeptic of the exit poll numbers simply because the best way, what makes the exit poll unique is the fact that you usually conduct so many of the surveys in person. You're physically in person. Obviously, with more people voting early, fewer people voting in person, the fact that you're going to have a skew, early voters voting one party, in-person voting another, never been harder to put together an exit poll that's going to be weighted correctly and all of that stuff. So for me as a tool of election night, one of the tools that I think we're not going to have, that I'm not planning on relying on very much, are the exit polls.
I couldn't agree. Chuck, the most scarring thing about the media in my career, it goes back 30 years, was being in the PBS LA newsroom on the night of 2000 when Florida was called early before the polls closed, and it erupted in cheers. Obviously, it was a very liberal place. I was the resident conservative there. It erupted in cheers. It was wrong. It was a bad call. They called it before the polls closed, and they called it wrong. Do you think there will be even more restraint this year in calling any state for anyone?
Look, all I can tell you is what we're doing. And yes, okay, I am the Cassandra, whatever you want to call it, of the network. And I'm just like, guys, I don't give a rat's patooey if every other network calls the state first, right? We are not in the race. And our folks know that. And I feel good about that. I think our unit's a little bit better than everybody else's. Part of me says that because I know what we do. And so I certainly trust my folks. But, I've seen some of our friends at some of these other news organizations. I mean, the big one is AP's had a very hard time calling elections correctly. They've had in the last 2 years have had to pull back calls more than I've seen in the last 2 years than they did in the first 20 that you dealt with AP. I mean, there was a time AP you took it to the bank, but everybody is struggling now with this, and so you have to be more careful than ever. And I do think that there is a climate in some news organizations that care so much about calling something first. No one keeps track of this.
No one cares.
No one cares who calls what first. No one does.
The only thing that's remembered is when you call it wrong.
Racist. Correct.
Yeah.
One of these weird things. So, look, here's what I say. I'm confident we're going to get 90% or more of the vote in 3 key states on election night: Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. And we found out yesterday, Arizona, believe it or not, might get to 90% by 3 a.m. They've changed their processing law a little bit, so they're going to process their mail-in ballots quicker. You tell me we can get to 90% in those 4 states, and at least we'll have an idea of where the presidency is headed.
Now, there are 2 Senate races I want to talk to you about: Minnesota and Michigan, with a third, Iowa, which you and I know. Ernst is ahead in 2 polls, Greenfield's ahead in 1. Are you surprised that Minnesota has 2 races? Minnesota Post has Smith up 4. The Minnesota KSTP, which is Survey USA, I'm not so big a fan of Survey USA, has Smith up 1. Does that surprise you?
Yes, because I've not seen any numbers that have shown that race less than, any number 7 or 8. And I'll tell you this, if it were that close, the Republicans would be talking about it more. The whole Minnesota thing was a good idea that's never been fully executed. Right, the president wanted. The whole point of both, and that's what's happened to both. I think Lewis and James here is that these are pretty good candidates. This was their best set of challenger candidates that they had. They're much better candidates, for instance, than the football coach down in Alabama. He's not running a very good race down there. He's going to win because of demographics, but he's not running a great race, Mr. Tuffleville. But Lewis and James are, and they're both been damaged by the president's reelection campaign, who's pulled completely out of Michigan. And they basically not targeted Minnesota. And, the problem there is I do think both of them need that extra oomph there.
Now what's going to be interesting to me is
I do think the Michigan race is still is a lot closer. I've seen those public polls. They look more outliery in Minnesota.
John James was just on the show, and he said he needs to go from single digits to double digits in Detroit. That is not a lot to do. Actually, when you run the second time. John Thune increased his Native American vote between his first race and his second race, and because they targeted it and they worked it. I think that's the sleeper on election night. Although Iowa,
on that one side, I mean, I think that the biggest sleeper state in the country to me is Kansas. I think Kansas is for me going to be the most interesting story I'd like to see the ending to.
I'm stunned by that. I'm looking for a Kansas number on my Real Clear Politics, and they're not polling it very much. So maybe you guys are polling it, and I don't know about it.
Oh, that's weird that Real Clear is not doing that. That race has been a 2 to 4 point race. It has never budged. And what's interesting there is if it does end up blue for some reason, people are going to jump on Trump, and it's not Trump. This is still Sam Brownback, the Democratic Senate candidate there. She didn't run against Trump. She runs against Brownback. It's very interesting. Brownback is still the problem for the Kansas Republican Party.
You know what? There are 14 Senate races listed as top Senate races at Real Clear Politics. Kansas isn't on them. That's very interesting to me.
I did just tell you. Well, we'll see. That tells me something about Real Clear's events of late, and I'll just leave it at that.
Let me ask you finally.
I mean, if you're not doing Kansas, you're not covering the Senate.
That's interesting. I just had no idea. Let me ask you finally. I have spent 2 days.
I think it's more competitive than Alaska, and people have put Alaska. And frankly, I think it's more competitive than South Carolina.
Well, South Carolina is not competitive. You can spend $1 billion. You can't make Republicans when they don't. You can't make Democrats where they don't exist. I mean, you can get them to turn out, but you can't make them, and they're just not enough numbers.
I will say Harrison is. They are correct in their strategy. They're trying to make 48% a winning number by trying to help, pump up the third-party candidate. It is the only way he can win.
And Lindsey knows that. Senator Graham knows that. Let me close by talking about anecdotal evidence is evidence of anecdotes. But I started yesterday to get calls, and so I changed my whole show into, you didn't vote in 2016, you're voting this year, tell me why. There are a lot of first-time Trump voters, Chuck. Now, there are going to be a lot of first-time Biden voters, people who sat out 2016 as well. But if you pick that up in your data, a lot of people who did not vote in 2016 are coming out to vote for Trump this time.
There's two things that have been going on. In the early vote, you do see, and this you asked me about the early vote, what have I seen in there that is worth looking at? The most interesting piece of data are the casual voters. And right now, for instance, in the state of Florida, you're seeing an uptick in casual voters on the Democratic side for them. The biggest, I think, thing you see that what you just point out is it's the voter registration campaign that went clearly pretty well for the Republicans during the summer, particularly in Florida and Pennsylvania. And that is picking up a lot of the first time. That's your first time voter there. So I think that is, when you look at, there's a lot of data that supports Biden's lead right now. But the biggest counterfactual that I think should give a lot of folks pause is the voter registration data that we've seen in the two big states I just mentioned.
We'll leave it there. I will see you tonight on debate coverage, both before and after Chuck Todd. Of course, on Sunday, if it's Meet the Press, it's Chuck Todd. Don't miss it, America. Let me also tell you right now, it's the time that I remind you about ReliefFactor.com. Had that unsolicited testimony earlier today from our friend down in Southern Virginia, who always takes it when I take it with my lukewarm coffee in the first hour. But in the second hour, I remind you, for you people who don't get up early on the East Coast or don't go to sleep late on the West Coast, don't forget your ReliefFactor.com. Don't leave home without it. Get your ReliefFactor.com. Take it. Don't put it in the car with you. Take it. Maybe you walk to work. Take it before you walk to work. Maybe you just exercise every day. Maybe you're retired. Whatever it is, ReliefFactor.com makes it easier. Please also remember HonorBoundCoffee.com. Just talking with John James, a great veteran of the war. HonorBoundCoffee.com. 100% of the profits go to support the men and women of the United States military who are active duty. So please go and subscribe to HonorBoundCoffee.com. Do it today. 4 different brews, 4 different grinds, 16 choices. 100% of the profits go to the military families out there. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm going to talk with David Cortman of Alliance Defending Freedom about that Oregon case next. Stay tuned. This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. If President Trump makes a comeback and pulls off yet another upset victory on November the 3rd, it will be because he relied on the disgust of the American people with elites. Trump will again run on a platform of America first and on rebuilding the economy he built once before until it was shuttered by the novel coronavirus. He'll point to his clear-eyed view of today's aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party and to the strengthening of our military buildup, a growing Navy, the Space Force, and the revitalized nuclear deterrent. Trump will also run on his massive deregulation and the appointment of justices and judges who are faithful to the Constitution. And often hysterical media endlessly chants the same anti-Trump refrains. But voters have to ask themselves, which man do they want squaring off against Xi Jinping, rebuilding the economy, appointing judges, and funding the military? Trump can embrace this disdain of elites that is widespread, and yes, he can win again. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
There's been a lot of talk about social media censorship and these tech companies going after opinions and people that they do not like. As I am speaking to you right now, I am locked out of Twitter. I do not have access to my Twitter account. So over the weekend, our team was going through some tweet ideas, and we saw this story that was originally from ProPublica about the Pennsylvania's rejection of mail-in ballots. It was rewritten by many other reputable news agencies, and in the title, it said Pennsylvania rejected 320,000 ballots. So we just took the essence of the story. It was widely reported and tweeted it out. 19 hours later, it turned out that the story added the word applications to it. Now, mind you, at the time we were tweeting it, it was absolutely and completely what was the drumbeat of the media coverage. We were not trying to mislead people. We were not having the intention to try and deceive or to try to interfere in an election. And so then Twitter basically comes to us last evening in a pseudo-hostage situation. I said this on Steve Hilton's show last night. It went somewhat viral, where they said either you're going to delete this tweet, and until you make a decision on that, you are not allowed access to any of your 1.8 million followers on Twitter. And so we kind of took a time out and a pause as we were in Nakatomi Plaza, basically, in some sort of a Die Hard scene where they are holding us hostage, saying that if you do not bend the knee and you admit guilt, then you don't get access back to your Twitter account. Now, mind you, it's a lot more nuanced than that, though, because as soon as you admit the guilt, you're basically put into a proverbial Twitter jail box. You're handcuffed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Over at HughHewitt.com, you will find my sponsor. Alliance Defending Freedom has a banner at the very top. Will you contribute to the Freedom Fund? You can give now. You can give a donation of $100 or your best gift. I asked David Cortman of Alliance Defending Freedom to join me this morning to talk about a case in Oregon. Good morning, David. How are you? David, I cannot believe this Oregon case because it is, don't get stuck on stupid is what General Honore said during Katrina. I say to every governor out there, don't get stuck on unconstitutional. Would you tell us about this case? Because I cannot believe it.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. I mean, we've talked about these type of cases for months and how governors have this great overreach. They can decide, what's essential and what's not. They could open casinos and close churches. And this is about as egregious as it is protecting the public school system, if you will. So basically the whole summer, private religious schools were told you're going to be able to open in the fall. So they go ahead and rehire all the teachers. They implement all the safety guidelines, all the health issues, the CDC. They're following all of that stuff. Right before school starts, the governor changes the rules, by the way, without telling him, and says we're going to have this exception for small schools to open, but it's only going to apply for public schools. And if you have a small private school, you don't get to open, even though the health situations are the same in both places. So it's quite remarkable.
Now, I want people to understand the law, and the law is you may not, if you're the government, discriminate against religious institutions. Is that concisely stated, David, correctly?
That's exactly stated, because not only does it have to be at least even-handed, we have this thing called the Free Exercise Clause that is supposed to give preference to religion and religious organizations.
Now, the ADF has been to the Supreme Court 11 successful times in the last 10 years. How often has it been over free exercise or RFRA, that's the Religious Freedom Restoration Act related cases?
Yeah, I mean, it's been almost all the time, and even when they're free speech related, it's religious speech. So religion has been the topic of almost every case.
And the court keeps saying to the governors and the mayors and the county councils of the United States, you may not discriminate against religious institutions of any faith. And ADF defends all faith. And yet they are discriminating against Christian schools in Oregon. Have you sent a letter? Has there been any litigation success yet? Is this in the court yet?
Yeah, and, the first thing, the Supreme Court said is it's odious to the Constitution to discriminate against religious organizations. And yes, so we actually filed a lawsuit a couple of days ago. We are working on an emergency motion, a preliminary injunction motion, basically asking the court to order the governor to treat religious schools equally, to allow them to open, because there's a lot of hardship on the school. It's not just financial, but we have working parents who are unable to stay home with their kids to be able to learn online. So kids are suffering because of this, even though they're allowed to go to public schools, because they can't go to these small private religious schools.
Now, I read one report that a spokesperson for the governor said we have to favor public schools or they'll go bankrupt. And in fact, in California, a lot of students are moving from public to private, from public to homeschooling, from public to Christian, from public to sectarian private, because the public schools will not reopen. Is that what they're worried about in Oregon? They're just trying to save the teachers' unions?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. There was a phone call, and one of the governor's liaison was asked that question. I don't understand in our county, why are we opening small public schools but not small private schools? It's the same thing. And the response was, well, we don't want a mass exodus leaving the public schools to go to the private schools, and that's simply an unconstitutional reason.
It's so unconstitutional. David, Hermiston Christian School is the plaintiff here. They have a grand total of 51 students. It's bigger than my Catholic high school was, but it's not very big. It can be very easily reopened safely. I don't think, though, they can afford to pay lawyers. Am I right about that?
No, that's exactly right. In fact, this school, as you mentioned, has 51 kids. Public schools, whether they open or close, are still getting funded by the state. And there's no way this small private school can go against the state of Oregon and say, okay, we're going to sue you in federal court. That costs hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Do you have any idea how Hermiston Christian School found the Alliance Defending Freedom?
I do not, but I do know that they contacted us and said, look, we're in this situation. What should we do? And we said, look, we can help you. Of course, we help them free of charge. We take care of the cost because that's the only way to make a stand. And what's neat about it is not only are they taking a stand for themselves, but for all the private schools, not only in Oregon, but throughout the United States.
And could you just give our audience a quick estimate, David Cortman, of what it costs in terms of hours to get a preliminary motion for a TRO into court?
Yeah, we're talking about hundreds of hours. By the time you collect all the facts, meet with the clients, draft up the paperwork, go to court. I mean, that's just, and hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars is just the beginning of the case. Some of our cases, as you mentioned, that go up to the Supreme Court, those are $1 million to $2 million in attorney fees that we don't charge our clients for because that's the only way to get justice.
So, David, thank you for that. I want to appeal to this audience. Go right now to HughHewitt.com. Protect this Christian school. Protect every Christian school in America and every religious school in America and every church in America by ADF contribution. When you go there, you can find the banner at the very top. The banner says, please, won't you donate to the Freedom Fund, give now? Or you can call it in 866-359-9644 at Alliance Defending Freedom, 866-359-9644. $100, $1,000, $2,500, whatever you do, you'll find the banner. Will you fight for your freedom? Will you fight for the freedom of this school in Oregon and every school? Please be generous to the Alliance Defending Freedom. Great sponsor of this show and a great protector of religious liberty everywhere in the United States. I'll be right back with Joni Ernst of Iowa on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. If you're on a college campus today or have a child on campus, there's a solid chance you'll hear this. All white people are racist. You might hear this too. America is founded on white supremacy. These two sentences are not mere overheated emotion. They express an ideology called critical race theory, or CRT, which argues that race is a social construct made by white people. Just as race was once used to enslave and terrorize, so it is used today to keep America unequal, unfair, and hostile to minorities. The Trump administration just took symbolic and courageous action against CRT. It issued a memo to federal agencies calling for the end of the government's CRT racial sensitivity trainings, terming them divisive anti-American propaganda. Does America have real issues in its past? Yes. Have we made real progress that we must guard carefully? Also yes. The White House has led well here. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Here's Shelley, a lifelong Democrat, weighing in here in the ReliefFactor.com studios. Hey, Shelley, thanks very much for your patience and joining us today. How are you?
Well, thanks, Mike.
Good. Good. What do you think? Who are you going to vote for in 13 days, Shelley?
Oh, well, I'm going to vote for Trump, and I wanted to make the point because I know there's a lot of folks like me out there who have been lifelong Democrats and have never, in over 40 years of active voting, I've never crossed the blue line and voted red, but I will on November 3rd or before.
Wow. What was there a tipping point? Why are you making such a departure from what you've done all your life?
Well, it's multifaceted, but I mean, in some ways, I think when this whole thing started with COVID and the lockdowns, something came over me like I got hit by a brick, and I realized that something really stuff was going on. And it was also, this just was coming from my bones. It was very intuitive too. But I'm the kind of person who's fairly open, and I started to put together all these little pieces of the puzzle that I had accumulated over a lifetime. Suddenly, all started to come together, and I realized what was going on. I realized that the Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party anymore,
right?
And they've been hijacked,
right. Right. I'm so grateful for your clarity and your honesty and your willingness to cross the party line. And it's a reminder, there's a lot of Democrats like Shelley all over the country. I've got friends who are Democrats who said they couldn't dream of voting for a Democrat in 2020. They just they can't believe what people are experiencing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Imagine if Stephanopoulos had pushed him on the China Hunter Biden stuff. This is a monumental scandal. And they literally didn't even mention it. I mean, actually, that's the scandal, that the journalists have ceased to care about truth or objectivity or even the state of America.
Absolutely. I mean, and, I don't know if maybe George Stephanopoulos was worried that, China would cut off their feed to the program if he mentioned them and Biden in the same sentence, But then the scandal, of course, as well, is not only is the mainstream media not doing their job, they're not journalists anymore, they're activists. And we have to keep that in mind when we're all curating content and when we're reading some of these pieces. I mean, I read some of the mainstream media from the New York Times, the Washington Post, and just think this is so blatantly partisan. It's not journalism anymore. They're just stories. I mean, they don't have breaking news like we were talking about. They have breaking opinion. That's all that it is. It's all slanted. And you could see that from the questions and the fact that they were totally silent. George Stephanopoulos refused to push Joe Biden on the issues when he is running allegedly for president. I mean, we know that it's actually Kamala Harris that's running for president. Biden even said that he's running for Senate, but they refuse to push him. And not only that, Facebook and Twitter are then taking down stories from the New York Post and saying that we can't retweet this, as the American public who are actually looking at content and a major national news organization is being censored from what's supposed to be an online platform of public discourse.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Michael Medved at michaelmedved.com for Town Hall. The appointment of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the United States Supreme Court counts as a masterstroke and easily one of the best decisions of Donald Trump's presidency. In an election season when liberals and media try to characterize conservatives as old, angry, bigoted, extreme, and lacking in empathy, Judge Barrett displays the opposite characteristics. At age 48, she's youthful, a genial consensus builder, and mother of 7, including a special needs child and 2 adopted kids from Haiti. On a court dominated for decades by Yale and Harvard graduates, she's a breath of Midwestern fresh air, beloved by her students at Notre Dame. Most importantly, she'll give new life to the originalist thinking of her mentor, Justice Antonin Scalia, in stressing what the Constitution actually says, not what Judge wanted to say. As Americans have been losing faith in public institutions, Judge Barrett can help to restore their confidence. I'm Michael Medved.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
And every interview I went to asked him the same question, but I didn't have a good, solid answer for him. So my next interview, I answered every question. I was very articulate. I gave him great answers, and I got the job. Even got more money
after 15 rejections.
After 15 rejections. I could have very easily.
By the way, did you wear a suit and tie to the last one?
I wore a suit and tie to all of them.
Okay, just checking, because you guys do not wear a suit and tie on your podcast.
Right. We're pretty laid back on that part.
Yeah, I was going to say, right. If you showed up in one of those T-shirts, that might have been one of the reasons. But all right, now it's clear to me. Okay, that's fair. So, so the great challenge is to get that message to more blacks. You're hurting your lives by buying this victim mentality.
Yeah, but you know, Hollywood and our culture, our musicians, our celebrities, our civil rights, man, they got their hook so deep in the black people, you can't even you can't even talk to them. They're so mentally enslaved, they don't even know they got shackles on them. I try to talk to black people. No, I'm not going to dance with a white man. You sound like a white person. I'm saying, no, man, I'm just being clear. You can't. Everything's just it's not about being black and African. We all are just people with the same likes, the same wants, the same dreams in America. Drop all that pro-black, pro-Africa. I said, man, you're just an American. Nothing more than that. You're American just like everybody else.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The big story, of course, is the Hunter Biden bombshell, New York Post. Treasure trove of emails, letter from one of his Burisma associates thanking him for arranging a meeting with his dad. There's also an email in which Vice President Joe Biden is referred to as the big guy, and the email implies the big guy is getting a percentage of whatever the deal.
Morning, Glory, America. It's Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway. I'll be back with you tonight at 8 p.m. on most of these stations with an hour of pre-debate coverage and an hour afterwards, as well as on NBC doing post and pre-debate analysis. I'm joined now by Senator Joni Ernst of the great state of Iowa. Good morning, Senator Ernst. Welcome back. How are you?
Hey, I am great, Hugh. Thanks so much.
You learn some stuff in campaigns like this. What I have learned is that your colleagues in the Senate love you, and they are flying into Iowa to help you because the Democrats are dumping an avalanche of money on your head. Honestly, they all seem to be going to Iowa to back up Joni Ernst. That's got to be gratifying.
It is, and I'm so grateful to so many colleagues and so many folks that I've worked with through the years, and of course, great Iowans all across the state supporting me. Here we are. I'm sitting in Washington, D.C. I'd much rather be out in Iowa, but we have important work in front of us here in D.C. I'm here to fight for Iowans, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
I want to talk to you about Judge Barrett. You did a phenomenal job. You're not a lawyer. You're a warrior.
No.
You did a fantastic job on judiciary last week. You get to vote on Monday. Am I correct? You will be voting to confirm Judge Barrett on Monday?
Well, we will. As a full Senate, we will be voting her into the Supreme Court. Today in the Judiciary Committee, we will have, of course, her nomination in front of us, and we will move that out. It sounds like maybe there will be some shenanigans from the Democrats, but, Lindsey Graham, our great chair, he is bound and determined to get her out of our Judiciary Committee today and then have that final vote on Monday off of the floor of the Senate.
Now, Senator Ernst, your opponent, who is rolling in dough, is opposed to Amy Coney Barrett. Is that true?
That is true, absolutely. And this is what we see from the left, my opponent included, is that they, of course, want their model, their fit for what a woman should be. And because Amy Coney Barrett doesn't march in lockstep with a liberal idea of what a woman should be, she opposes her nomination. And, of course, I think that Amy Coney Barrett is an incredible jurist. She's a brilliant intellectual mind, and you know what, bottom line, she is a decent human being. So I am so proud to support Judge Barrett. I am just so saddened that the Democrats have turned this into just a political issue rather than what's right for our Supreme Court.
Now, Senator Joni Ernst, one of the things that most impressed me was what you didn't do. You didn't start talking immediately when the time was given to you. You offered Judge Barrett an opportunity to say anything she wanted to. Yeah. I wish that was actually a habit. How did that occur to you?
Well, of course, on the Judiciary Committee, we rotate Democrat, Republican, and the Democrat ahead of me was Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii, and she kept interrupting Judge Barrett. She kept talking over Judge Barrett. She would not let Judge Barrett explain her positions or what she would do as a Supreme Court justice. She just kept talking. So I wanted to give Judge Barrett that opportunity to respond to Senator Hirono and make sure that she was setting the record straight. And she did take that opportunity. I'm very thankful for it.
I want to know if people in Iowa notice that. I'm an Ohioan, and that's just good manners. And I think the Midwest kind of believes in good manners. I know Rob Portman does. Did people in Iowa notice what you did?
Yes, I have had a few comments. They were so thankful that I was able to give her a few minutes to respond to Senator Hirono and then move on to my own questioning.
Now, Senator, you're a soldier, so you can be tough when you have to be.
Yeah.
And I know there was a debate, which you won. Is there any more debates coming up? Does your opponent want to get back in the ring, or is one time knockdown enough for her?
No, I tell you what, we are done with debates, and no, they fought us on debates tooth and nail, and even debating this last debate, because I had to be in Washington, D.C., we were trying to Zoom and all these various connections, because they refused to move the debate to when I could actually be there live. They were like, oh, no, we're far too busy. Busy hiding in the basement is kind of what's been going on. But, we're done with debates, and we'll move forward. I let my record obviously speak for itself, but as soon as we confirm Judge Barrett, I can get back to Iowa. I'm going to hop in our Winnebago and cover the state of Iowa and make sure I'm visiting with as many Iowans as possible.
Now, will Chuck Grassley, you can't make a full Grassley in 2 weeks. I mean, that's not possible. So where do you've got rural Iowa, you've got the farm vote. Where are you going to spend your closing argument? You're ahead in the last two polls. I know you're behind in the money, by the way. JoniErnst.com if people want to help you. JoniErnst.com. JoniErnst.com. How do you spend 10 days?
Well, 10 days, obviously, we'll be out on the road in the RV. We will be covering as much territory as possible. So the folks up in Northwest Iowa, solid conservatives. We need to make sure we're turning out that vote, though, so I want to make sure I'm paying attention to those. They're my great base. Love them, love them. Certainly getting to the eastern side of the state as well. That's our more liberal side of the state, but certainly we've got great independents, even some Democrats that have supported me in the past. So I'll be out there just trying to fire them up as well, making the case that I am fighting for Iowans. I will continue to fight for Iowans. I've already completed the 99 county tour for the year, which is something that my opponent, we called her out on this a number of weeks ago. She hadn't even visited half of the state of Iowa in 16 months of campaigning. So, of course, making sure that we're reminding people, I visit with everyone, regardless of whether they're in a metro urban center or in one of our most rural communities. So we're going to concentrate eastern side of the state and hit northwest as well.
It changes by whichever senator I'm talking to. What matters the most to Iowa voters right now, Senator Joni Ernst?
Right now, jobs and economy. And of course, our economy is large in part tied to agriculture. And so whether it is trade deals, whether it is, of course, the renewable fuel standard, those things are very, very important. But we have a tremendous manufacturing base as well. Hardworking Iowans, putting together goods and distributing those all around the globe. All of that is really, really important. So with COVID, our folks want to know that they can return to work safely and responsibly, and that's exactly what we've been able to promote in Iowa. And working with our wonderful governor, Kim Reynolds, she's done an outstanding job. Iowans want to work. They want to produce, whether it's ag products or goods. They're great, hardworking folks, and that's what means the most to them.
Very last question, Senator Ernst. In terms of media availability, is there any more media left to buy? I mean, the Democrats have just bought everything they can buy. Is there anything left to buy?
Very, very little, Hugh. And this has been the issue, is that there is so much outside money pouring in to support my opponent, Teresa Greenfield, that there is not much at all left. This will be the most expensive race in Iowa history. Right now, it is the second most expensive Senate race this year, which is incredible. Iowa has around 3 million people, total population. It's a very, very expensive race. We'll probably we'll hit 200 million and go beyond that as well, I'm pretty sure.
I just can't imagine that plays well. This is a bonus question. I just don't think they want to be attempted to be purchased by New York and California money, Senator Ernst.
Absolutely. And we looked at the FEC filings for my opponent. She brought in a record haul of over $28 million in the last quarter compared to my $7 million. When we looked at that, the top 3 states with donations, New York, California, and New Jersey. So what does that say? She's representing the coastal liberal elites and their money, not focusing on Iowa issues.
Well, good luck in getting back to Iowa early next week. Senator Ernst, great to talk to you. JoniErnst.com, America, if you want to help her out. JoniErnst. Thank you, Senator. Always a pleasure. I can't tell you people enough how much it is important for you to support these Republicans in the tough races as we get close to the wire. John James in Michigan, Joni Ernst in Iowa. The whole thing could change if James wins in Michigan and Joni Ernst wins in Iowa. It's over. We'll know by middle of the night whether or not the Senate has remained in Republican hands and the Republic is safe. Iowa is Trump country. The early rural vote makes me feel pretty confident about Joni Ernst. The last two polls as well have her ahead, but you can't sleep on a lead. Not this year. Not this year. You got to get out there and work. I'll be right back, America. 1-800-520-1234. Are you a first-time Trump voter? I want to talk to you on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I know this is the art form that we all learned from Andrew Breitbart. You draw the leftists, you draw the propagandists into a trap of their own making, get them to deny the small stuff, and then hit them right between the eyes with the big, big lies and catch them red-handed. Steve, what is going to happen in the next few days here in America?
Well, I think, look, you started your show with Hunter Biden, and one of the things that we've been trying to emphasize is this is not a story about a son's drug problem. This is a story about a father's national security problem. Look, Seb, you were one of you were my right hand and one of the top strategists in the White House. You understand geopolitically what we're up against, and trying to put forward an America First national security policy. Here on the financial side and on the political corruption side, we have a story that's just now overwhelming. It's coming from every different direction, including the hard drive from hell, which we're in possession of. Also, Peter Schweitzer and Matthew Turman with 26,000 emails. Was it Bevan Cooney has now flipped and signed an affidavit. A guy in federal prison that was a partner of Hunter Biden, plus other revelation. I think you're going to see mainstream media all converging on this aspect of national security, foreign policy, geopolitics, and really the Biden family being in business with our enemies, being in business with the Chinese Communist Party and other, bad guys throughout the world, but particularly the Chinese Communist Party.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. If you're on a college campus today or have a child on campus, there's a solid chance you'll hear this. All white people are racist. You might hear this too. America is founded on white supremacy. These two sentences are not mere overheated emotion. They express an ideology called critical race theory, or CRT, which argues that race is a social construct made by white people. Just as race was once used to enslave and terrorize, so it is used today to keep America unequal, unfair, and hostile to minorities. The Trump administration just took symbolic and courageous action against CRT. It issued a memo to federal agencies calling for the end of the government's CRT racial sensitivity trainings, terming them divisive anti-American propaganda. Does America have real issues in its past? Yes. Have we made real progress that we must guard carefully? Also yes. The White House has led well here. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
A silver casket was wheeled to the front of a Brooklyn nursing home yesterday with 6,500 copies of Governor Cuomo's new book in the casket, protesting his COVID-19 policies and representing the 6,500 people who reportedly died from the coronavirus in nursing homes across the state as a result of Cuomo's insane mandate that nursing homes had to take COVID-19 patients. They were begging him, no, we can't take, it's going to spread through the nursing homes like wildfire. It did. 6,500 copies of Cuomo's inconceivable book that he's written in the middle of the pandemic. Every day, Cuomo has a press conference. He sits there and pontificates about how great he's been. He's written a book about it. It's unbelievable. The guy is one of the worst governors in the country, and these goofy liberal Democrats in New York think this guy's some kind of a great leader. They hold him up as a pillar of virtue and leadership. And this guy is so bad, and that's the kind of leadership that the Republicans are trying to defeat in 2 weeks. That's the kind of leadership that is representative of failing and failed cities and states, blue cities, blue states in America.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending.
Welcome back, America. Let's steal a march on the markets. It's Hugh Hewitt, brought to you by Andrew and Todd.com. Yesterday was a red day on Wall Street. Dow was down 97, NASDAQ off 31, S&P down 7.5 points. But at Andrew and Todd.com, they remain gold office business in the California gold rush. People are rushing to buy homes. They're looking for pre-qualification letters. Andrew and Todd.com have never worked this hard. They are with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. You can call their office at 888-888-1172. That's a toll-free call. Andrew might answer. Todd might answer. I talk to them at least weekly, try and figure out what's going on. They're exhausted. This is the lowest interest rate environment in the 30 years I've been in radio. I remember the first house that Fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I bought in 1985 at 12.5% interest. Now you're getting 30-year money at 2.5% in some cases. But you got to call to find out, 888-888-1172, or go to andrewandtodd.com. Overseas this morning, everything turned green. It started in the morning red at the 10-year Treasury at 0.82. That is great. That is great for people who want to borrow money to refinance their home. They want to get money out of their house. They want to reverse mortgage if they're a senior, they're a veteran. They don't want to put zero. They want to put any money down. They want 0% financing. That's andrewandtodd.com. Let me also remind you, Keep America, America.com, Keep America, America.com. Go and vote. They will tell you where. They will tell you how. There is early voting in Michigan, Ohio, in Arizona. There's early voting all over the United States. Go and get the best information and commit to take yourself and one other person early to in-person voting. Keep America, America.com. Back to the phones. Doc in Scranton, Georgia. Did you vote 4 years ago, Doc?
Hey, how you doing, you?
Good.
Hey, what a great way for a Christian agenda to have Trump as your messenger. Let's go Trump. But I want to mention one thing to you. You know, the reason that Trump draws so many people to his rallies, entertainment, free concert. But what I wanted to ask you, Hugh, is if Trump loses, I want to know exactly what you're so afraid of. Please tell me. Thank you.
So, Doc, don't go away, Doc. Are you still there?
I'm still here, too.
All right. So what do you do for a living, Doc, since you're a seminar caller in the morning?
What's that?
Since you're a seminar caller in the morning, what do you do for a living?
I'm a doctor.
What kind of doctor?
And I'm probably smarter than you are, by the way.
Most people are. Honest to goodness, otherwise I wouldn't have been a Browns fan. I wouldn't have been a Browns fan all these years if I wasn't at the bottom of the IQ range.
I know you're smart, man. I'm just smarter.
What kind of doctor are you?
Optometrist.
And so optometrist, you're not a medical doctor, you're an optometrist. And I love optometrists. I use an optometrist.
No, we do medical work. We do medical. We're like the osteopath of medical.
But you're not an MD.
I'm not an MD.
Okay, so how long have you been in optometry, and do you work for yourself?
43 years, and I do.
And so what's the name?
I fight the insurance companies every day.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So why don't you like Trump?
Because he's a scoundrel. He's a cheat. He's a liar. You need honesty. You need to be able to trust your leader and believe I don't believe anything he says.
So
he lies. He's a liar.
So did you tell my Doc?
He doesn't represent Christian values.
Doc, did you tell my screener that you were a first-time caller for Trump?
Yeah, well, I'm going to vote for him.
No, wait. Did you tell him you were a first-time? Did you tell him you were a supporter of Trump?
No, I said I was going to vote for him. First-time voter.
First-time voter for Trump.
I feel sorry for it because I don't want it to be a landslide because then he'll contest it.
So, Doc, my guess is you weren't truthful with the screener. That's what my guess is.
Oh, really? Well, you're able to make that judgment?
Yeah. Well, actually, that's Ben. Was he truthful with you, Ben?
Yeah.
Ben?
I said I'm going to vote for.
Wait a minute. Put down Doc's mic. Ben, was he truthful to you?
It doesn't sound like it. No.
No. So, Doc, you're calling Donald Trump untruthful after you seminar called your way through. Indicts your credibility, don't you think?
That I'm going to vote for Trump because I don't want to see it to be a landslide. He's going to lose.
Doc,
I just don't want it to be a landslide.
Doc, I really don't think you're an emblem for truth in America, but you're welcome to call the show anytime. Just next time, Because I let Democrats through. I honest to goodness do. Just be honest with them. Just don't lie. You just got to nutshell the Democratic Party there, America. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for Alliance Defending Freedom. I am their partner, as you should be, in their ongoing support to defend religious liberty and free speech in the United States. Not just for Christians, not just for Catholics, not just for Mormons and Jews, but for everybody. And they do it for free because of the generosity of people like you. Please go to HughHewitt.com and contribute to the banner at the very top. Please give generously today. Defend your freedoms.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
A YouTube channel, 1.5 million subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers. And it's Keith and Kevin. The brothers are twins. So, yes, I have a lot of questions still. I want to get back to the victim thing. One of you were saying, and is so critical, it is a lot easier to believe you're a victim than to look in the mirror.
Yeah, it's easier to blame somebody else for your inadequacies than to look in the mirror and fix the situation yourself. Because whenever you fail at something, then it's not failure; it's an opportunity for you to learn from that. That's how all successful people are. They fail and they learn from their failures.
Right.
I think a lot of people on the left, once they make a horrible decision, they fail at something, they blame somebody else. Yeah. One of the biggest detriments to the black community is identity politics. I mean, me being us being in the military, us being working in Fortune 500 companies all life, from every black person I ever known, man, they always had this thing with other people being racist when they don't even know that person personally. Like for example, when I went to school and I got a degree in accounting. Once I got that degree, Dennis, I went to 15 interviews. No one ever called me back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
At 8:03, as I was about to come on the show, I tweeted out, this is now no longer Hunter Biden scandal, it's Joe Biden scandal, and I included a photograph from the Daily Mail of Hunter Biden, drugged up and sitting in a bathtub. And the second I pressed send on my Twitter account, I got a message: you have been locked out of your account for violating Twitter's service rules.
Charlie Kirk, a new addition to our Salem lineup, Dr. G, as you know, same thing happened to him. Here's what he said.
We are seeing right now that big tech has become the enforcement and the communication arm of the Biden campaign and the Democrat Party. If you're a socialist or a Democrat watching this right now, or an independent, it should bother you that a multi-trillion-dollar conglomeration of companies have the power to be able to silence opinions they do not like. It is undemocratic, it is anti-American, and every single person that believes in a free society should be outraged and, quite honestly, compelled to action against what these tech companies have been able to do to our country.
They're not social media platforms. They are propaganda arms. And if you are a conservative and you're an effective communicator, sooner or later, whether you're Larry Elder, whether you're Charlie Kirk, or whether you're Dr. G, they will come after you.
And Dr. Gorka, it's not just about followers, because as I mentioned, I've been averaging about 2,000 new followers per day. And also, every post I put up there, I averaged about 15,000 views. No matter what it was, 15,000. Now, no matter what it is, I'm averaging about 5,000.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. If President Trump makes a comeback and pulls off yet another upset victory on November the 3rd, it will be because he relied on the disgust of the American people with elites. Trump will again run on a platform of America first, on rebuilding the economy he built once before until it was shuttered by the novel coronavirus. He'll point to his clear-eyed view of today's aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party and to the strengthening of our military buildup, a growing Navy, the Space Force, and the revitalized nuclear deterrent. Trump will also run on his massive deregulation and the appointment of justices and judges who are faithful to the Constitution. And often hysterical media endlessly chants the same anti-Trump refrains. But voters have to ask themselves, which man do they want squaring off against Xi Jinping, rebuilding the economy, appointing judges, and funding the military? Trump can embrace this disdain of elites that is widespread, and yes, he can win again. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
There's been a lot of talk about social media censorship and these tech companies going after opinions and people that they do not like. As I am speaking to you right now, I am locked out of Twitter. I do not have access to my Twitter account. So over the weekend, our team was going through some tweet ideas, and we saw this story that was originally from ProPublica.
Joined now on the Hugh Hewitt Show by Senator Cory Gardner of the great state of Colorado. Good morning, Senator Gardner. Welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Hugh. Thanks for having me.
The 60 Minutes just released a bit of Joe Biden's interview from Sunday night in which he says it's a live jump ball over court packing, says he's going to put a commission together and study what to do about the Supreme Court. First, you're going to vote for Judge Barrett on Monday. And second, what's your opponents say? And third, why is court packing a disaster?
Well, look, my opponent is open to court packing. He's said that all along. He wants to make Puerto Rico a state, Washington, D.C. a state. He wants to ban fracking. This is the most liberal Senate candidate Colorado has ever seen. He's in line with Joe Biden and his attempts to destroy our economy and prevent an economic recovery at the scale that we must have as a result of the pandemic. Look, court packing would be a disaster because remember what court packing is. They've tried this Orwellian newspeak to redefine what court packing means. They think that filling a vacancy on the court with your appointment is court packing. That's not what court packing is. Throughout our history, it has been defined as a body, a party, a executive that tries to put more seats to a court, like the Supreme Court from 9 to 10 to 11, until you get enough judges to rule your way in a case. That's exactly what they want to do. That's treating the court like it's some kind of banana republic.
Now, the Democrats are committed to this. Joe Biden is now very obviously committed to it. He realized it was untenable to keep saying he wasn't going to do it. So he got a commission idea. Does this move the needle in Colorado, Senator Gardner, to stand for the rule of law and to protect the court?
Well, absolutely it does. Anytime that you are standing for the rule of law, and look, we have a great Coloradan on the highest court now, Neil Gorsuch. I think there's a great deal of respect for what Neil Gorsuch has done and will continue to do, and they understand the importance of having a fully staffed court of 9 justices. This has been the way in this country for over 150 years. They don't like it when people try to cheat, when they try to undermine, and that's exactly what John Hickenlooper is urging his colleagues or would-be colleagues in the Senate to try to do.
Does Hickenlooper support the ban on fracking? Because that is a central issue, has been a central issue in Colorado for as long as I've been going there, which is 2 decades. What does Hickenlooper think, and what do the Democrats think?
Well, John Hickenlooper has said over and over again that he will work to make oil and gas obsolete. So it doesn't matter how you do it, whether you ban fracking or whether you just ban those jobs. He has said on the record he will make oil and gas obsolete. What that means for Colorado is 230,000 families will be put out of work in Colorado under John Hickenlooper's energy plan. It's outrageous.
Now, Senator, you've done tight races before. This is going to be very tight. You need turnout. What is Colorado's early voting rule? What does it look like under that rule for Democrats and Republicans right now?
Well, it's estimated that about a third of Colorado voters have already voted. Right now, that's a lot of Democrats and unaffiliated with about 24-25% Republicans. Republicans need to turn their ballots in. I know they may be leery about the post office, or they're leery about this or that or the other. Look, it's safe. It's going to be secure. It is secure. We have a history of that in Colorado. Get out and vote. Your president, your party, your House of Representatives, your Senate, they all need that vote to be cast.
Now, we kept all the senators back here for Monday's vote on Judge Barrett, which is important, but then you got to get back and work. Which parts of Colorado do you hit? Do you work Denver to try and reduce the margin which is built into the Democratic base, or do you go out to the West Slope? Where do you go?
all over the place. Obviously, with the COVID-19 restrictions, it's a little bit more difficult to do events in Denver than it is in other parts of the state. So we do a lot of Zoom and digital meetings in Denver. We go in person where we can, but we're limited in terms of the people and places that we can have those in the major urban areas. So the Eastern Plains, Western Slope, Southern Colorado, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Northern Colorado, Greeley, anticipate spending a lot of time there. But we're working hard in Denver and Boulder because, look, those are areas that have a lot of votes. Not necessarily all voting for me, obviously, but the more people we can convince statewide, that makes a big difference when it comes to the bottom line tally. Look, John Hickenlooper is on the record saying he wants to shut our state and our economy down again. He wants to lock it up, close it up, and keep the people of our state locked down. I just think we've got to get back to normal. Yes, we will fight this pandemic, but I don't think John Hickenlooper's way of shutting down the state again is helpful, and we have to. That's the message that we're going to be talking about the next several weeks.
Is there any sign at all, you've been on foreign affairs for a while, that John Hickenlooper has an appreciation for what the Chinese Communist Party have done, what they intend to do, and how they're going to go about it?
Look, John Hickenlooper's idea of foreign policy is traveling out to the Eastern Plains. Look, I mean, this guy wants to give a big wet kiss to President Xi. He said that Colorado and China share a lot of the same values, have a lot in common, that China is not a country to worry about. They don't want to rule the world. I mean, he is naive and vastly undereducated when it comes to the threat that China poses to our country. Look, I mean, this is a guy who's, been jet-setting around the country and around the globe, but apparently not paying attention to what the Communist Party has been doing in violating human rights and stealing our intellectual property rights.
Now, you have to close, Senator Gardner. You're behind, but you're closing. What is the best message for your supporters right now?
Number one, get out and vote. Get your ballot turned in. Number two, if you know of somebody that doesn't know how they're going to vote in this election, send them a link to the Channel 9 News debate between John Hickenlooper and I. Send them a link to any of our debates. You can find them on the Channel 9 News website, Channel 7 website, Pueblo Chieftain website, the Telemundo website. I mean, they will see a distinct difference between John Hickenlooper and I. Remember, John Hickenlooper is the most corrupt governor in Colorado history, a guy who is the first governor who violated the state's constitution. And there were, almost 100 other charges that weren't even considered because they were outside of the statute of limitations. Now, John Hickenlooper says that they were just paperwork errors. Well, it's a little bit like Richard Nixon saying it was just a recording error. So I hope that the people of Colorado will dig into a little bit more about John Hickenlooper's corrupt past.
I've talked to your colleagues about the money imbalance. Does that exist in Colorado as well?
It's not as bad in Colorado as it is in other places. He raised a significant amount of money the last quarter, the third quarter, but he almost spent every single dime to raise the money. And so we were basically tied when it came to cash on hand. Look, this is a guy who, has really stayed in the basement, probably, talking and chatting with Joe Biden most of the time. But he hasn't had the same kind of fundraising success that other candidates around the country have. But to be clear, this imbalance in fundraising that Republicans and Democrats have is a significant challenge to Republican candidates across the country. The Hollywood elites and the New York elites and everybody that's sending all this money to candidates around the country. I mean, raising $25-30 million, sometimes raising in 3 months what a Republican senator took 6 years to raise. It's pretty incredible.
So last question, Senator Gardner. Do the people of Colorado get that a vote for Hickenlooper is a vote for Chuck Schumer to run the Senate?
Well, they absolutely should, especially this week, and I absolutely believe that they do. At a debate last week, 2 weeks ago, John Hickenlooper said that he would support a COVID relief package. He called it a lean bill. We have the skinny bill. I'm in no physical shape to discuss the differences between physical, skinny and lean. But he said he'd support a lean bill. And then he turns around yesterday and opposed the very COVID relief package that we put on the floor that would have provided unemployment benefits, that would have provided child care dollars, education dollars, paycheck protection program dollars for businesses. He opposed that. So, he must have gotten a phone call from Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer said, hey, nope, you were wrong, can't do that. And he changed his tune. So I think the people of Colorado see that a vote for Hick is a vote for Chuck.
Always a pleasure, Cory Gardner. Keep fighting, keep going. CoryGardner.com if you want to help Cory Gardner in the last closing kick. He's a vote for Amy Coney Barrett on Monday. He'll be a vote for common sense conservatism in Colorado for the next 6 years. CoryGardner.com. Now, let me play for you a little Joe Biden, just so you know what we're talking about. Joe Biden was on Milwaukee TV yesterday. Very blunt, cut number 3.
He still doesn't have a plan, but I do. I put my plan out in March. You can read it all online. Go to joebiden.com, and it starts with a mask mandate nationwide.
That's coming, and so is incoherence, cut number 4.
If you notice, last time, according to Chris Wallace, he interrupted the president and me 148 times. I think that's right. He interrupted Mike. The president interrupted Chris Wallace and me 148 times.
Oh, man. I don't think he's going to win, but if he does, boy, I can't get used to that. Cut number 5. The teleprompter fails.
According day 1, and we're going to start to upgrade. We're going to start upping the ante on what we have to do. We make up 15% of the world's problem, and yet, in fact, 85% of it is out there in the rest of the world. So if we just act alone, we're not going to get it done. But there's a whole range of things we can do. We can do it quickly, and we can get it done in a way that has the benefit of also creating millions of good, hard jobs that pay a lot of money. And first, that are going to require us to have union-made facilities.
You know, I just believe it's remarkable that people don't get to see this every night on their television. I really do. Compared with Donald Trump in North Carolina last night, cut number 15.
We're going to win this state 13 days. This great state. And we're going to win 4 more years in the White House.
My friend Chuck Todd does not believe crowd size matters. I do. I actually believe it's an extraordinary barometer of passion and why this early vote is encouraging to me. Tim in Georgia. Are you a first-time voter, Tim? Tom.
Hello?
Hey, Tom, are you a first-time voter for Trump?
I will be, yes, sir. You know, this is so funny, Hugh, because the previous guy who called, who said he was an optometrist, well, I am too.
Oh, really? Are you a real optometrist?
Yes, sir.
Because I don't believe Chuck was an optometrist. I just believe Chuck's a paid Democratic worker, that they do this to me every 4 years.
Well, you know, when you start off with the he's a liar and you're yelling and raising your voice, I mean, if Biden starts that in the debate, I think Trump just looks at him very calmly and says, you know, Joe, you and your buddies need to look in the mirror when you say those things about the opposition, because that's more true than what you're trying to say. Quit projecting. And the other thing, Hugh, because I wrote down a couple things while the other guy was on. Biden is talking about a return to normalcy. Are we plagiarizing again?
From Warren Harding, 1920. Yeah, 1920 campaign.
Yeah, and then one final, please. When you talk about the global warming or climate change and all that, here's my question for Biden. I wish the president would ask it. Okay, Joe, so what do you say to the people who have electric cars and they're trying to escape the wildfires or take their mama to the hospital, and they're in a brownout and they can't recharge their car battery?
Yep. Hey, well said, Tom. Thank you. Good to have you. Cheryl in Tennessee, 10 seconds for you, Cheryl.
Trump yesterday. I didn't vote in 2016.
Why'd you vote for Trump yesterday?
Because he has kept his promises. And quite frankly, I admire him because he's been under constant assault, false charges. Every day's been a battle for him, and he shows up every day.
That's a great reason, Cheryl. I think there are a lot of people just like you. Thank you for calling. Time for me to remind you for the last time today, ReliefFactor.com. Don't leave home without it. I've got to pick up all sorts of, I got to go to the, what do they call that place where they got all the outdoor stuff, where you got to pick up the plants and the stuff, whatever that is. I got to go there with the fetching Mrs. Hewitt this morning. Yeah, the nursery. Got to go to the nursery this morning. And I got my Relief Factor, lifting and hauling, doing what I'm told to do. It is my life, and it's a lovely one. It's a great one, but ReliefFactor.com makes it possible. Tom Cotton is next, America. Stay tuned. This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. If President Trump makes a comeback and pulls off yet another upset victory on November the 3rd, it will be because he relied on the disgust of the American people with elites. Trump will again run on a platform of America first and on rebuilding the economy he built once before until it was shuttered by the novel coronavirus. He'll point to his clear-eyed view of today's aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party and to the strengthening of our military buildup, a growing Navy, the Space Force, and the revitalized nuclear deterrent. Trump will also run on his massive deregulation and the appointment of justices and judges who are faithful to the Constitution. And often hysterical media endlessly chants the same anti-Trump refrains. But voters have to ask themselves, which man do they want squaring off against Xi Jinping, rebuilding the economy, appointing judges, and funding the military? Trump can embrace this disdain of elites that is widespread, and yes, he can win again. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
There's been a lot of talk about social media censorship and these tech companies going after opinions and people that they do not like. As I am speaking to you right now, I am locked out of Twitter. I do not have access to my Twitter account. So over the weekend, our team was going through some tweet ideas, and we saw this story that was originally from ProPublica about the Pennsylvania's rejection of mail-in ballots. It was rewritten by many other reputable news agencies, and in the title, it said Pennsylvania rejected 320,000 ballots. So we just took the essence of the story. It was widely reported and tweeted it out. 19 hours later, it turned out that the story added the word applications to it. Now, mind you, at the time we were tweeting it, it was absolutely and completely what was the drumbeat of the media coverage. We were not trying to mislead people. We were not having the intention to try and deceive or to try to interfere in an election. And so then Twitter basically comes to us last evening in a pseudo-hostage situation. I said this on Steve Hilton's show last night. It went somewhat viral, where they said either you're going to delete this tweet, and until you make a decision on that, you are not allowed access to any of your 1.8 million followers on Twitter. And so we kind of took a time out and a pause as we were in Nakatomi Plaza, basically, in some sort of a Die Hard scene where they are holding us hostage, saying that if you do not bend the knee and you admit guilt, then you don't get access back to your Twitter account. Now, mind you, it's a lot more nuanced than that, though, because as soon as you admit the guilt, you're basically put into a proverbial Twitter jail.
Welcome back, America. Senator Tom Cotton is my guest. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Hugh. Good to be back on with you.
Thank you. Joe Biden has told 60 Minutes he's going to create a bipartisan commission of scholars from across the spectrum to propose ways to reform the court system in 180 days because it's getting out of whack. Nora O'Donnell asks, so you're open to studying to pack the court, and it's a live ball. He affirms that it is. Your reaction, Senator?
Yeah, I'm sure that Joe Biden's bipartisan commission to reform the courts will range from the left to the far left, Hugh. There is nothing that's gotten out of whack about our court system. The Democrats are disappointed that the American people didn't elect Hillary Clinton to appoint judges in 2016. They didn't just reelect a Republican Senate in 2018, but expanded our majority to continue confirming great conservative judges like Amy Barrett, which the Senate Judiciary Committee will do momentarily and which the Senate as a whole will do on Monday. Joe Biden's claim that he's going to create some kind of commission is just one more dodge, one more punt, one more play in his four corners offense to hide the ball from the American people, which is that he and the Democrats would like to pack the Supreme Court. They would like to add justices because they dislike the rulings of the justices, which will fundamentally undercut the legitimacy of the court and the rule of law in America.
It's an attack on the Republic. People may not know, but they will find out from me every day. If you expand the Supreme Court, you are attacking the very center, the tent pole of the Republic. Do you agree with that, Senator?
It is a frontal assault on one of our three branches of government and perhaps more fundamentally the rule of law on which self-government is based, that we will have impartial rules written in advance and applied impartially. To have a political party come along and say, we don't like the way the courts are applying the law, so we're simply going to add more left-wing justices to rule in the way we would like, is truly radical. Not even Franklin Delano Roosevelt, at the height of presidential power, not just his own, but the height of presidential power in the history of America in 1937, could pack the court because the American people opposed it then, just like they oppose it now, and the American people are right.
They are right, and I hope every person listening votes against every Democrat because the party has embraced instability in the Republic. Senator, I want to ask you about a specific thing. I'm not a fan of special counsels, but I have read 28 CFR 600.1 and following sections in today's Washington Post. I will have an editorial calling on the president to appoint, or the attorney general to appoint, a special counsel to investigate the Biden emails before the election because of the appearance problems after the election. What do you make of that suggestion?
Hugh, I heard your interview with Mark Meadows yesterday on this very topic, and I know that Mark was going to discuss it with the Attorney General and other folks in the administration. I mean, you make a pretty strong case because, as you said yesterday, Hugh, half of the American people are apt to dismiss the conclusions of the Department of Justice, whether it's Donald Trump's Department of Justice or should Joe Biden win, Joe Biden's Department of Justice. So I think this would be a case where you might want to consider a special counsel for obvious potential influence for a foreign adversary like China having the goods on someone like Joe Biden. Maybe that's not the case, but, you know, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden haven't denied any of those emails. They haven't denied any of those proposed business deals. It's kind of like the dog that didn't bark. So I think that you might need to consider a special counsel. And, of course, if a special counsel is appointed, I would expect Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff to genuflect in front of the sanctity of the special counsel, to in fact pass laws that would protect the special counsel in his work and empower him to be a roving prosecutor into the Biden administration and the Biden family, just like they did on the Russia collusion hoax with Donald Trump. Don't you think that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi will do that to you?
Absolutely, automatically, given their record, the precedent of their lives will be in favor of a special counsel being appointed. But I want to do it simply because it's the rare situation where half the country will not trust whatever the results of the Hunter Biden investigation and whatever the results of the Durham investigation will be. Now it's been politicized. We have to get it. It's the rare case that I support a special counsel. And I hope the president listens. Senator, what are you seeing? You were in New Hampshire this week. You're all over the place. What do you think of this huge early voting turnout?
Hugh, I think all these races across the country are just very tight. I've been in New Hampshire, Georgia, Montana, Iowa, Colorado, Michigan, and of course Arkansas. I think all of these races are very tight. I think it could come down just to who votes over these next 12 days or so. Obviously, we have a very large early vote. In Arkansas, we have a very large early vote. I think a lot of that, Hugh, though, is that you have to take into account that we are in the middle of a once-in-a-century pandemic, and many people want to vote earlier. They want to vote by absentee to protect themselves from needless exposure to the virus, or to protect poll workers, protect their fellow citizens. So it's always a bit of a challenge to try to divine from the early votes and the turnout figures about what it means for the election. I would just encourage everyone listening today, if you love our Constitution, if you want to preserve our Republican form of government against these radical Democrats who want to pack the Supreme Court and pack the Senate and topple the Electoral College and grant amnesty to 15 million illegal aliens, then get out and vote, however you feel most comfortable, by absentee, early vote, or on Election Day.
And Senator, I would encourage you, if you're going to be out wearing your fleece, you're wearing a green fleece, it's Army green, I understand that, but a scarlet and gray fleece would actually be a winning fleece. And you could get out there and, have the Buckeye tradition behind you. I encourage you to get your scarlet and gray fleece. Senator Tom Cotton, he's in New Hampshire this week. Maybe next week I'll ask him why. Don't go anywhere, America. I'll be back tomorrow with debate coverage on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.